The meeting is now being recorded.
I would like to call the regular meeting of February 26, 2024 to order. Please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Will the secretary please call roll?
Commissioner Benninger,
Present.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Here.
Commissioner Leo, Commissioner Ramos,
Present.
Commissioner Wu,
Here.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Here.
Chair Pham. Vice Chair, quorum has been reached at 5:40.
Thank you. Before we begin, I would like to remind my fellow commissioners to turn your microphones on when speaking and off when not speaking. And when speaking, please place the microphone about 4 inches away from you. Thank you. Members of the public may attend Planning Commission meetings in person or virtually via Zoom. I will now invite the Commission Secretary to describe the way the public can access and participate this meeting.
This meeting is being live streamed via our portal at www.sana-ana.primegov.com/public/portal and to YouTube at www.youtube.com/City of Santa Ana videos. If you would like to provide public comment, you may do so in the following ways. Join the meeting via Zoom, enter meeting ID 813-796-22999. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, select the hand icon to let us know that you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the name you entered. You can also join the meeting by calling 669-900-6833. Enter meeting ID number 813-796-22999. When the item that you would like to comment on is being discussed, press 9 to let us know you would like to speak. You will be called upon by the last 3 digits of your phone number. After you're called upon, you may press number 6 to unmute yourself. For those who are attending this meeting in person and would like to provide public comment, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. All speakers will have 3 minutes to speak, and I will alert you when your time is up.
Moving on to public comments on non-agenda or non-public hearing items. Secretary, does anyone wish to speak on non-public hearing items?
If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on non-agenda or non-public hearing items, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. I will wait for a few seconds. Vice Chair, we don't have any speakers.
Thank you. Moving on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve item A, minutes from February 12, 2024, and item B, excused absences?
I move.
We have a motion by
Second the
Commissioner
motion.
Wu and a second by Commissioner Benninger. Secretary, please call for roll call vote.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo, Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Aye.
Chair Pham. Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Leo and Chair Pham absent.
Thank you. That concludes the consent calendar items. Moving on to the public hearing. I will now review the process for the public hearing so that everyone knows what to expect. Staff will provide a presentation and answer questions from the commission. The public hearing will be opened. The applicant will be given the opportunity to speak, limited to 15 minutes. Members of the public will be given the opportunity to comment, limited to 3 minutes. The applicant will be given the opportunity to respond to comments made by the public limited to 5 minutes. The public hearing will be closed. Discussion will return to the commission with final action taken to approve, deny, or continue review of the application. Please consider the following suggestions when organizing your comments. Please state your name and address, strictly voluntary. State whether you support, oppose, or are neutral to the proposal. Your statement should include all pertinent facts within your knowledge. Please note, this decision on this matter is final unless appealed within 10 days by any interested individual or party. Recommendations on this item will be forwarded to the City Council at a later date for final determination. This is the time and place for conditional use permit number 2023-15 for the property located at 3220 South Bristol Street, located within the planned shopping center C4 zoning district. Before we begin, do any commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to this item? Seeing none, Matthew Kilroy will now provide a brief presentation.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Thank you for welcoming me. To sum up the item before you, Paloma Negra Fusion Bar is requesting approval of conditional use permit number 2023-15 to allow the sale of beer, wine, and distilled spirits for on-premises consumption at a new eating establishment located at 3420 South Bristol Street. Staff is recommending the adoption of a resolution approving the CUP as conditioned. The site is located within the general plan land use designation as District Center Medium DC-2. The site's zoning classification is for the planned shopping center C4. The surrounding land uses include commercial retail to the north, east, and south, with residential to the west. The existing 4,835 square foot standalone commercial building is located on a 0.93 acre lot located near the northwest corner of Bristol Street and MacArthur Boulevard. The subject site was developed in 1977 as a Sizzler restaurant. The tenant space was previously occupied by China Olive Buffet from 2001 to 2019. This establishment will accommodate up to 280 patrons, and the consumption of beer, wine, and distilled spirits will be an ancillary component to its dining service options. Currently, Paloma Negra Fusion Bar will operate Sunday through Wednesday from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. and Thursday through Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 a.m. midnight. No live entertainment is being requested at this time. Business owner Marco Andrade is a food entrepreneur and has an established record of experience with operating eating establishments. He is the founder and CEO of La Miucana premium brand and operates over 157 in-licensed partnership ice cream businesses throughout the United States, 26 of which are personally owned and operated in California. Paloma Negra Fusion Bar will contribute new concepts in the field of gastronomy and market a family environment for the enjoyment of the community. The restaurant will serve a multicultural fusion cuisine, including cocktails and sushi. In addition, the restaurant will offer unique assortments of beer, wine, and distilled spirits as an ancillary component to their principal dining service options. This is a site photo of the southern elevations and main entrance from the existing commercial building. This is a site plan of the subject property. This is the floor plan. As shown, the alcohol display will take up a small fraction of the floor space, 84 square feet in total, which is much less than the allotted 5% maximum. Based on the analysis of the project, the planning division has found that the subject site is consistent with the goals and objectives found in the land use element of the general plan. It is located in a commercially acceptable zone, neighbors other commercial uses, and is not located in close proximity to any parks or playgrounds. The Pear Tree multifamily apartment complex is located approximately 200 linear feet west of the existing commercial building and is buffered by a surface parking lot, dense landscape division, a perimeter wall, and a private vehicular lane. Approval of the CUP will allow Paloma Negra Fusion Bar to remain economically viable and compete with nearby eating establishments offering a similar type of goods and experience, thus contributing positively to the surrounding area. According to Santa Ana Police Department crime statistics, they found that within police grid number 130, it ranked 27 out of 102, which is the 26th percentile, which is not within the 20th percentile threshold established by the state for high crime. With that being said, the Santa Ana Police Department is satisfied that the operational standards and conditions of approval will mitigate any potential impacts to the surrounding community and does not oppose the granting of the CUP. Conditions of approval, property maintenance agreement, and standards in the Santa Ana Municipal Code will address any potential negative impacts. In accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and the CEQA guidelines, the project is categorically exempt from further review, and there is no fiscal impact associated with the action. Staff recommends the adoption of a resolution approving CUP number 2023-15 as conditioned. Staff, as well as the applicant representing Paloma Negra Fusion Bar, Ernesto Martinez, are available to answer any outstanding questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Does the commission have any comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger.
This is a question for staff. This CPU is just on the business. It's not on the ownership of the building or surrounding area.
The CUP runs with the land.
Okay, I did drive over there today and I'm concerned about the buildup of the covering on the walls, very thick vine areas, ideally for kangaroo rats to hide in summer. You bring now food in this area for the first time in a while. I just can see that being a problem. So I don't know if we can add anything that's saying that that needs to be cut back or be concerned about possible rodent contamination.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. There will be exterior, they're looking to paint the outside and also improve the interior. So those vines will be taken care of because it has to be painted.
The vines I'm talking about are against the retaining walls around the property. That's where the rats would come. And of course, behind it is actually the covered over is the drainage, but you go up just a few feet from the property and that's where it's opened up. And that's where the raccoon rats would be coming out of and going down the vines, especially there's food sources there.
As part of the conditions, the landscape has to be updated. So that'll be one of the factors that we take into account.
Very good.
Commissioner Scamilla.
Yeah, and I guess I was just going to go for a more general background. Do we know how long this particular place has been closed since? And I know it was China Olive, but I'm trying to remember when it closed down.
As far as the research, it was back in 2019.
Okay. And right now, has the applicant submitted any other building permits just for the kind of overall, oh my gosh, interior work that needs to be done? Is that already kind of happening and this is just the CUP, or is pretty much the entire build out at this point dependent upon the CUP being approved?
So that's correct. At this time, there is tenant improvement with building and safety, and it's about to be issued.
Okay, perfect.
Commissioner Wu. Commissioner Wu.
Is there sufficient parking in your restaurant?
There is, yes.
And is the operator here? I mean, the owner of the restaurant today?
Yes, the applicant representing Paloma Negra, Ernesto Martinez, is in the audience.
Are they going to speak later?
Yeah, he's welcome to.
We can ask the applicant questions after this. Yes. Thank you. Commissioner Ramos?
No, I just have a question for the applicant when that time comes. Thank you.
My question was along the lines of Commissioner Scamilla, if the CUP was just if it's needed in order to actually do any remodeling, interior, exterior, things like that, but you already answered our question, so thank you. Commissioner Scamilla, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, or well, acting Chair. So I guess the this is still for staff. When we see, I guess, projects like this, and this is maybe more kind of in the conversation that we're having with the zoning code update. This seems like a fairly low risk type of project. We're replacing one use with the previous use. Not sure if we had a previous entitlement here also for beer and wine sales on site.
No, there was not.
That it was, okay. Just I guess as we kind of have these conversations around what we can kind of expedite or speed up, I don't know if there's anything we can do kind of in the future to kind of pre-approve or pre-entitle particular sites, just that continued use. I know that the window that we have is about a year right now. Not sure if we're looking at extending that or having options to extend based upon particular criteria, but this is a particular site where I think a lot of the criteria kind of fall in place, where it's an eating establishment to an additional eating establishment, no change in square footage. So I'm just very supportive so far of what I'm seeing, and would encourage us to kind of think of ways that we would speed up the entitlement process for projects like these.
Thank you. The public hearing is now open. Does the commission have any questions or comments of the applicant? We have questions. Would the applicant like to speak on the matter?
Hi, hello. I would like to pass around some booklet to the members. I have some copies. Regarding the- There's some pictures inside.
Oh, and I think, Chair, we might need to make these available to the public too, right? So we need to make sure staff gets a copy and is able to post these online, so they can add that to the record.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ernesto Martinez, and I'm pretty sure to get a job to submit the CUP application. The investment for this restaurant will be a little over $900,000. Paloma Negra will have a unique culinary and sophisticated dishes. Clients should experience different cultures under one roof, taking authentic Mexican, Asian, European, and Middle Eastern traditional cuisine. The master chef at Paloma Negra will use professional skills for culinary advancements to extract the essence of cultures together. As you see, it's essential to have a liquor license to make delicious drinks, and we make this unique experience. I live in Santa Ana and I support Santa Ana business. Thank you. Do you have any question for me?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Benninger?
No questions at the time.
Commissioner Scamilla?
No question at this time.
Commissioner Wu?
Your flyer explained who was going to be the chef. That's
Yes,
what
yes,
curiosity.
yeah.
Yeah, and because I thought it was a big leap from the ice cream to the.
No,
Sure.
it's gonna be a totally different
Yeah.
adventure.
Thank you for this. This kind of explained that. Okay.
Thank you.
Just a weird question. I hope you don't mind.
It's okay.
In terms of calling something sushi, is there a standard for that?
Well,
That you had to train so many years under a Japanese system or anything?
well, so far as I know, there's gonna be different types of food and gonna be they wanna try to fusion different kinds of cuisine. And at this point, they call it sushi ace because it's like that word like more people understand.
Yeah, you picked three trends that
Mhm.
are very healthy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
see that. Thank you very much.
No, thank you.
Commissioner Ramos?
Yes, thank you for your comments and the handouts. So my question, thinking about the type of business ventures that the owner has had, I'm very familiar with La Michoacana. Does the owner have any experience with other ABC licenses at any other type of businesses?
Oh, he's opening another restaurant in Anaheim with a same type of 47, and that one is gonna be transfer because they don't need a CUP. It's just gonna be transferred to him. It's opening one in Anaheim as well with a different name.
Okay, so in Santana or, and
It's gonna be
then
the first-
considering Anaheim, this would be the first one?
Yeah, it's gonna be the first one.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, but he's gonna have a professional employee to handle the regulation for ABC.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
And no additional questions from me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Recording Secretary, have we received any written communication or is there a member a member of the public that would like to comment on this item?
We have not received public comment prior to the 3:30 deadline. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you are participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. I will wait a few seconds. We don't have any speakers.
Thank you. The public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to approve this matter?
So,
I move.
oh,
I'll second.
all right, either way, I'll motion to approve.
We got a motion
Yeah.
from
A second.
Commissioner Scamilla and a second from Commissioner Wu. Secretary, please call for roll call vote.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Scamilla, Commissioner Leo, Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Aye.
Chair Pham. Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Leo and Chair Pham absent.
Thank you. This is a time and place for conditional use permit number 2024-01, conditional use permit number 2024-02, and amendment application number 2024-01 for the property located at 2101 and 2109 East Santa Clara Avenue, located within the General Agricultural A1 zoning district. Before we begin, do any commissioners have anything they wish to disclose with regard to this item?
I would like to disclose that I had a conversation with former Mayor Polito last night. He talked in support of this project.
I also had a ex parte communication, but I directed him to talk to staff and look at the staff write-up on it. It was beyond my understanding at the time.
Thank you. Pedro Gomez will now provide a brief presentation.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Good evening, fellow commissioners. This next item is a request to approve various entitlements to facilitate the construction of a new McDonald's with drive-through and 24-hour operations or after-hours operations at 2101 and 2109 East Santa Clara Avenue. Specifically, the request would be to recommend that the City Council adopt an ordinance approving amendment application 2024-01 and to approve conditional use permit number 2024-01 and 2024-02. The property is zoned general agricultural A1, and it has a general land use designation of general commercial. The site is surrounded by commercial shopping center to the north, a drive-through restaurant immediately to the east, a second commercial shopping center to the east, multifamily residential, commercial, and a preschool to the south, and multifamily residential and a California Highway Patrol office to the west. The applicant is proposing to demolish 2 residential structures and associated improvements on the site. And they want to propose a new 3,975 square foot fast food establishment for McDonald's with 24-hour drive-through operations. As previously mentioned, the site is currently zoned general agriculture, and the proposed project includes a zone change to change the zoning classification to arterial commercial or C5 in order to allow the proposed eating establishment with drive-through. The establishment would include a dual drive-through lane limited to the ordering menu board and a bypass lane near the pickup window. The project would also include various off-site and on-site improvements to the public right-of-way. Extensive landscaping, enhanced paving, 32 parking stalls, a decorative trash enclosure, and parking lot fixtures. The overall work would also include the removal of an existing driveway along Santa Clara Avenue in order to replace with a sidewalk, and would include rebuilding a second driveway located also along Santa Clara Avenue. The establishment would include about 802 square feet of dining area, seating over 30 guests. And the proposed hours of operation would include 24 hours for drive-through, 7 days a week, and between 5 a.m. and 1 a.m. for indoor dining use, 7 days a week. The building is designed in a California contemporary style with neutral dark color palettes, including materials such as plaster, stucco, aluminum, and metals. The site would include 8,604 square feet of landscaping throughout the site, and the proposed palette would consist of high-quality plant materials, including trees, shrubs, brushes, vines, and ground cover. 2101 East Santa Clara Avenue was constructed at an unknown date, but it was moved to the site in 1967. And 2109 East Santa Clara Avenue was constructed circa 1957 and included the main house and a garage. The now commercial center to the north remained undeveloped until 1972. And based on permit and title records, both 2101 and 2109 East Santa Clara Avenue were owned by the Newcomb family until they were sold to an entity, SRP Stater Bros LLC, in February 2021. In April 2022, development project review application number 2022-06 was submitted for review for the proposed project, and the application was deemed complete in December of 2022, and the required entitlement applications were submitted in January of 2024. And these next couple of slides just provide photos of the properties. This first one is 2101 East Santa Clara Avenue. You can see that the property is a one-story single-family house with a detached garage. And the second slide shows photos of 2109 East Santa Clara Avenue, also one-story single-family with a detached garage. And on here, you can see the proposed site plan. As you can see, the McDonald's building would be integrated with the existing commercial center and would maintain reciprocal access here. This is the project site, and there's a common driveway access to the center to the north. The establishment would be accessible via 3 existing vehicle driveway approaches, 2 along Tustin Avenue and the 3rd along Santa Clara Avenue, with no driveway entries proposed as part of the project, no new ones anyways. The building ingress and egress points and the proposed parking lot would be primarily accessible from the existing driveway along Santa Clara Avenue. Again, here it is. The project would also be subject to a 2-foot dedication in order to provide a full 10-foot sidewalk along Santa Clara Avenue to improve pedestrian circulation and safety. The 2 drive-through lanes will be available for ordering, which will then merge into a single drive-through lane for pickup window services. So you can see that here. So upon entering the site, you have 2 lanes that merge into one, and there's a second bypass lane here before you exit the drive-through lane. The bypass lane will allow vehicles that have already received their meals to bypass any queued vehicles and ultimately exit via the driveway along Santa Clara Avenue. Each lane is proposed to have vehicle stacking exceeding the minimum required per the code of 80 feet. And here we have the proposed floor plan. Again, the establishment would provide 802 square feet of dining area with seating for over 30 guests. And the proposed hours of operation for indoor dining use would be between 5 a.m. and 1 a.m. 7 days a week. You can see that the seating area for customers is here. We have the kitchen and back of house down here, restrooms and more back of house floor plan area for McDonald's on this end. On this next slide, we have a conceptual landscape plan. The proposed planter areas would be constructed along the northern, western, and southern site planters. and would provide decorative screening and a buffer between the eating establishment and adjacent off-site land uses. In addition to being centrally within the proposed surface parking lot and adjacent to the proposed drive-through. The site has been designed to include a large landscape area along the front, which will help buffer light and noise impacts to residential uses. Moreover, the site design would include 24-inch box trees and large shrubs planted along the southern property line to create a visual buffer between the drive-through lanes. In addition, the site plan has been designed so that vehicle headlights would not create lighting concerns to the residential units to the south. Specifically, the building and drive-through lane have been offset so that the pickup window is not aligned directly with any residential windows. Staff would like to note that we are recommending a condition of approval that the mature landscaping be evergreen, be required to be maintained throughout the lifetime of the conditional use permit, that it be maintained healthy, and that any unhealthy or dead plants be required to be removed and replaced in kind. These next couple of slides show the proposed elevations. Again, we have a California contemporary architectural style with neutral dark color palette and tones along the outer facades, and would involve materials such as plaster, stucco, aluminum, and metals. Here's the other two elevations, the south and the north. The proposed project has been designed in a single-story building with a maximum height of 23 feet to the top of the parapet. And in designing the proposed development, consideration was given to scale, massing, and the architecture of the project to ensure that it complements existing buildings within the surrounding development. And as previously mentioned, the site is zoned general agricultural A1, and the allowable land uses and development standards pertaining to the A1 would render the project infeasible, as eating establishments are prohibited in the A1 zoning district. Therefore, the project requires approval of an amendment application to change the zoning district to arterial commercial or C5. And this proposed zone change intends to align the subject site with the existing shopping center development to the north and east, and intends to align with the commercial corridor along Tustin Avenue, which is largely zoned C5. The proposed C5 zoning district designation is also consistent with the new general plan land use designation for this site. And here we're just showing the proposed change in the zoning designation. The image on the left, the existing zoning, shows what it's currently zoned now, and what the new zoning would be on the right, the proposed zoning. So you can see that to be consistent with the larger commercial center to the north and to the east. Pursuant to the municipal code, eating establishments with drive-through service require approval of a conditional use permit. The applicant's request for conditional use permit to allow drive-through window service will provide an added amenity to the property for the employees who work in the vicinity and for residents who live in the general area. In addition, the proposed McDonald's will generate new and permanent employment opportunities in favor of economic growth and the stability of the city, activate a previously underutilized area, and generate property and sales tax revenue for the city. With approval of the zone change in the CUP, the proposed project would be consistent with the Santa Ana Municipal Code. In addition, the project is located within an area that's characterized by retail and commercial uses. Therefore, the project would be consistent with the C5 zoning district, would not conflict with the municipal code, and would be consistent with the general commercial land use designation. The proposed drive-through was designed and intended to generate the least amount of community impacts as possible. An analysis of the site access and site circulation determined that the proposed site plan provides adequate spaces for vehicles to maneuver through the project and the drive-through. In addition, a drive-through evaluation was provided, which was intended to determine if the proposed circulation plan provides adequate on-site drive-through storage capacity to accommodate the peak on-site vehicle demands. The analysis determined that the dual drive-through lane exceeds the city's stacking requirements and will allow for storage capacity of approximately 16 cars, which is sufficient capacity to accommodate average and peak vehicle demands for the proposed project without disrupting drive aisles or on-site parking spaces. The drive-through operation is also designed to generate minimal noise, as the speaker boards are located towards the rear of the site or north elevation, away from the closest residential units, and are oriented towards the existing shopping center. Any potential noise impacts generated from the idling of vehicles or drive-through speakers is not anticipated to impact the closest residential uses, as they're approximately 250 feet away to the south. The site has been designed to include large landscape area to the south as well, which will help buffer light and noise impacts to the residential uses. And then pursuant to the municipal code, eating establishments located within 150 feet of property zoned or used for residential purposes that wish to operate between the hours of 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. require approval of a separate conditional use permit. The purpose of regulating after-hours operations is to preserve the surrounding community characteristics and minimize any negative secondary impacts. Staff has reviewed the applicant's request to operate McDonald's eating establishment and drive-through window service, as well as the after-hours, and has determined that the operations will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of persons residing or working in the vicinity. In staff's analysis, the 24-hour operations would not generate additional community impacts and would have minimal to no impacts to adjacent residences as it relates to lighting. This is due to the location of the proposed building and drive-through and the separation distance to existing residential units, as described before. Specifically, the project site is in an area that's already subject to significant ambient lighting from the existing commercial retail uses surrounding the site. The proposed project would involve new streetlights and additional exterior and interior building lighting associated with the operation of the proposed McDonald's. However, all lighting would be subject to the city's design guidelines and standards for commercial projects, which includes direction on how to minimize glare onto adjoining properties. All on-site lighting would be shielded and directed to minimize light intrusion onto adjacent properties. The lighting levels for the site would not be altered and would be consistent with the ambient nighttime lighting at the commercial uses surrounding the site. The site plan has been designed so that vehicle headlights would not create lighting concerns to the residential units to the south.
Thank you. Does the commission have any comments or questions for staff?
Madam Vice Chair, I'm sorry.
All right.
I know it's a rather lengthy project, but
Too.
there's a lot of
Sorry,
entitlement
sorry.
information on here. Thank you. I'll try to be quick, I promise. The 24-hour drive-through operations would have minimal impacts to adjacent residences as it relates to noise as well. The overall operations would not generate noise levels above the maximum acceptable noise levels in the city. Noise associated with the parking lot activities consists of vehicle engines, door slams, engine starts, and people talking. However, the stationary sources during the times of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m. would be limited to just the drive-through operations, as the indoor dining area would be closed during this time. These noise sources include the drive-through window and menu board with amplified speaker in addition to the amplified speech. The noise associated with the proposed project's drive-through operations were evaluated as part of the environmental document prepared. The document concluded that the noise levels associated with the parking lot, drive-through, and menu board were below the city's noise limits for nearby land uses. Nevertheless, to ensure that the 24-hour operations are not detrimental, staff is recommending a condition of approval that would help ensure that the operations would not generate noise impacts or that would help reduce the impacts to negligible conditions. So the police department reviews conditional use permit applications in order to ensure that the potential crime or nuisance behaviors associated with such a use are mitigated to the greatest extent possible. The police department reviewed police-related activities or calls to service within 500 feet of each separate parcel for the last year, which includes both residential and commercial uses. While reported activities were nearby the project site, the police department does not believe that any should reflect negatively on the proposed restaurant or after-hours drive-through activity. Furthermore, the police department contends that the operational standards applicable to the after-hours and drive-through activity will mitigate any potential impacts to the surrounding community and therefore does not oppose granting of the CUPs. The police department also provided collision summary report for the Tustin and Santa Clara Avenue intersection, which reported vehicle and pedestrian collisions from January 1st, 2017 and January 1st, 2024. The report summarized that during the time there were 67 collisions, of which 37 included injury collisions, 61 individuals reported as injured. And then prior to the general plan update in April of 2022, the subject properties had a split land use designation of an institutional and general commercial. As a result of the general plan update, the land use designation for the properties were updated to be fully general commercial, consistent with the adjacent commercial center properties. However, this resulted in an inconsistency with the zoning and general plan use. And to address this inconsistency, the overall project includes the amendment application to change the zoning district from A1 to C5. The approval of the project would be consistent with the general plan land use designation. The project would provide an added amenity to the existing commercial shopping center and would promote a land use that enhances the city's economic fiscal viability and mitigates any potential impacts to the surrounding community. The after-hours operations will contribute to the viability of the site, creating a business environment that is safe and attractive. And moreover, the project has been designed to be consistent with several goals and policies, which are noted up on this slide here. Goal LU2 for land use needs, LU3 for compatibility of uses, EP1 for job creation and retention, and EP3 for business-friendly environment. The project was notified pursuant to all state regulations. Representatives of Portola Park, Mayberry Park, Meredith Parkwood, Fairbridge Square, Young Square neighborhood associations were contacted to identify any areas of concerns due to the proposed request. And the project was subject to the city's Sunshine Ordinance meeting, requiring 2 meetings to facilitate early public participation. The first meeting was held in April 2022, and the second meeting was held in February of 2023. Both of these meetings were somewhat well attended, and the community did provide concerns related to traffic impacts, congestions, concerns related to the sensitivity of the existing single-family homes, sensitivity to increased crime, all along Santa Clara Avenue. Pursuant to CEQA and the CEQA guidelines, an initial study and mitigated negative declaration was prepared for the project. The purpose of the document is to describe the proposed project and to provide an evaluation of potential environmental impacts associated with the project's construction and operation. The document evaluates potential environmental impacts of project implementation, includes significant determinations from environmental analysis, identifies regulatory requirements to be incorporated into the project, and sets forth mitigation measures that will lessen or avoid potentially significant project impacts on the environment. The document determined that the proposed project would have no impact or less than significant impacts with mitigation measures in all topics outlined in the CEQA environmental checklist. Possible impacts identified by the document included those related to cultural resources, geology and soils, hazards and hazardous materials, tribal cultural resources, and mandatory findings of significance. However, with implementation of mitigation measures, all potential impacts would be less than significant. I do want to note that a transportation analysis and vehicles miles traveled screening evaluation were prepared for the project by Urban Crossroads and peer-reviewed by our consultant. As proposed, the project would incorporate all recommendations provided by the transportation analysis. The project is also presumed to result in less than significant impact for vehicle miles traveled, or VMT, and thus no further VMT analysis was required and no mitigation measures were required. The VMT screening evaluation was peer-reviewed by the city's traffic engineer as well. And what was concluded was that the VMT screening evaluation prepared for the project shows that the project is screened out entirely for a full VMT analysis. With incorporation of all recommendations, the project would not substantially increase traffic hazards or congestion. Nonetheless, the applicant has expressed a willingness to install additional traffic safety enhancements as requested by the city to ensure that traffic circulations are not further impacted or worsened, and to ensure that the proposed operations would not be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of the persons residing or working in the vicinity. A notice of intent was posted at the county, and it was to notice the availability of the document for a 20-day public comment review period, which ended in February 1st of 2024. A total of 5 comments were received, and the city reviewed all comments to determine whether any substantial new environmental issues have been raised. Moreover, the city provided a response to all written comments, which can be found in the response to comments and mitigation and monitoring reporting program available for the Planning Commission. Based on the evaluation and the document put together, and with the comments received, the city has determined that no substantial new environmental issues have been raised that have not been adequately addressed in the document or in the response to comments document. Based on the analysis, a notice of exemption, a notice of determination, that's a typo on the screen, will be submitted for this project. And then lastly, there is no fiscal impact associated with the project. Given all that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council adopt an ordinance approving amendment application 2024-01, that they adopt the resolution approving conditional use permit number 2024-01, and then adopt the resolution approving conditional use permit 2024-02. I do want to note that staff prepared a memorandum in response to public comments regarding cultural significance, and that memorandum was provided to the Planning Commission at the dais before the meeting. I do also want to note that the project applicant is here, their consultants are here, and the city's environmental consultant is present as well in case there's any questions that should be directed to any of our staff. That concludes the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pedro. Does the commission have any comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger. We'll start off.
Looking at the drawing, are the restrooms accessible only from the outside?
Thank you, Commissioner. No, they're not. They should be accessible from the inside. The packet that was provided as part of the agenda shows a more detailed floor plan for the commission, but if you can see here, there's accessible from the eating area. So there is no access to the outside, from the outside.
My concern is homeless folks going into those restrooms who have to go through the eating area in order to enter into them then.
If someone wanted to use the restrooms at this establishment, they'd have to go inside the establishment.
You mentioned that the neighborhoods, neighbors that were informed or contacted. Did the participant had any conversations with them? Was there any communications, one-on-one meetings with them?
You know, I don't recall specifically if they did, but that would be a better question for applicant. I know there was some initial outreach. I don't know to what extent though.
I'll pass personally.
Commissioner Escamilla.
All right, so I'm gonna have a few ones on this one. I guess just for me, if the comment or the staff responded to the historic issues kind of being one of the more pertinent ones, I probably just needed a little bit more time to dive into the exact rationale as to the period of significance. So as the representative of the Planning Commission on the Historic Commission, I know that we've approved projects that probably seem less historic than this in some regards. And I realize that we typically will put on kind of pristine examples of historic buildings on our register rather than proactively seeking out some that maybe aren't quite fully, I guess you would say, fully restored. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they can't be. So I guess I'm still grappling with whether or not, the idea of this as a non-historic, or this side of as having absolutely no historic quality. I'm still kind of grappling with that right now. So I just wanted to kind of put that on the radar first. Number two, do we have any idea what the, oh my gosh, the 3 trees in the front are? Are they California coastal oaks or another type of oak? Because then there's some implications, I think, there that I might not be seeing in the staff report.
As far as the conceptual landscape plan shows?
No, the existing trees.
Oh.
So we have like state protections on California coastal oaks, and I think that there are 3 oaks in the front lawn, but I don't know what species.
I apologize, Commissioner. I don't know the species of those trees, but perhaps maybe our applicant might know that.
Okay, so definitely want to take a look at that. And if we can we go to the details on the landscaping to prevent the headlight impact? Like, is there anything where we can see the landscaping plan to see exactly how that's going to be blocked off?
Sure. We have the conceptual landscape plan up on the screen here. There is a varied combination of shrubs, ground cover, and trees. I did have a conversation with the applicant as well, and they've expressed that they'd be amenable to any sort of changes to the landscape plan if commission felt it was needed to screen additionally noise, lighting, anything like that. And furthermore, we haven't finalized the landscape plan. It's obviously subject to approval of these requirements, but that's still an opportunity that staff has to work with the applicant to improve that area.
Okay, so yeah, I guess I would go for any kind of berm development there or berm feature. So just on that one particular side, I typically am anti berm, but in this particular case, I can see why it would be of a net benefit. So regardless of the outcome, I think we should probably have some kind of raised hill, right? So just anything that is a little bit more solid can kind of prevent that eye level and just kind of, you know, raise the ground a little bit just in front of those headlights, because I do think that that's something that especially with emerging LED headlights, I know that I'm constantly blinded every single time I hit the road. So wouldn't want that for anybody across the street. Okay, it's 4. Oh, sorry, no, I'm on number 4. The next one is you'd spoken about the evergreen requirement. I'm not sure if we have any examples where we're actively pursuing evergreen enforcement. So I know that it's a good idea, but I just don't know that we have any active enforcement on it. So we can kind of provision it, but do we have examples where, you know, our code enforcement officers go out there once every 6 months, 8 months, or, you know, help every 5 years or something, just to check whether or not landscaping standards are met? Because I can point to maybe 8 or 10 commercial properties off the top of my head that don't have their landscaping requirements there in place anymore.
Sure. I don't recall any specific code requirement about evergreen. I mean, there are code requirements about nuisance and maintaining properties to ensure that your landscaping is at least alive, right? So we know that trees, there's different types of trees. Deciduous would probably shed their leaves during the winter, but there isn't anything in our code specifically that says you have to maintain evergreen trees. But that's kind of the benefit about the conditional use permit, that we can condition the project. And if these terms are approved, then that's an opportunity for our code enforcement to enforce and point to this approved, if it were to go that way, conditional use permit and conditions to then require property owner to enforce the evergreen component. Also, there's a condition included that would be a property maintenance agreement as well, to further kind of help facilitate general maintenance of the site, including landscaping.
Okay, and so would this be the first time that we're using an evergreen requirement in our landscaping, or is that something we've done now?
It might be some time that we've used it. You know, generally we rely on our code to maintain. Our code enforcement does a great job of responding to code enforcement calls if there's ever any sort of yards or anything that needs improvement. But this was specifically important to us because of those residential properties to the south. So we wanted to make sure that they were maintained and they weren't losing their trees or its ability to kind of screen noise or lighting any time of the year. So that's why we wanted to proactively include the evergreen component to ensure that it provided some measures of screening.
Okay, perfect. And I think you answered my question. Thank you on the general plan designation. So that was good. You covered that one. And this one might actually not even be for us. So I don't know, the way I'm seeing this is probably going to get appealed either way. But I'm kind of curious as far as the economic impacts. I know we referred both to the, the property taxes and the sales tax. If this property was already sold in 2021, we're essentially kind of, stuck with that property tax rate. It's not going to get sold off to anything else. So, those property tax benefits are essentially baked in once the sale occurred. But I don't know whether or not you can confer with economic development staff to see what the average income to the city, to the state, to the county is for sales taxes for a 24-hour, comparable operation. I don't expect you to have the answer now, but I do think that, by the time you get to city council, that number should be available. Let's see. And I guess more generally, how often do we what's the last 24-hour drive-through we've approved? Because I thought we were moving away from drive-throughs generally, and then 24-hour operations even more so. So now to see those two combined in one particular project, I can't recall the last time we as a city approved a project similar to this. Because we still have a lot of drive-throughs that are not 24 hours for very specific reasons.
Sure. I know we've approved after hours previously. Recently, I can't recall any, but I can't confirm that they're all 24 hours. Some of them go maybe till 2, 3 in the morning. The most recent example that I can think of in the last maybe 5 years was on what is it, First Street and McClay, across the street from the DNV. There's a Jack in the Box that was approved for after hours operations and drive-through as well. And that was brand new construction. So that's kind of comparable to the site.
Okay. But that was like the one next to the DMV and then next to the apartments, and there's like a shoe complex. And
exactly. WSS shoe store was next to it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't say a comparable site, but okay. But yeah, I totally understand. A comparable proposal. Let's see. So yeah, definitely, I guess that to have that information at the ready again, because I feel that this is gonna be a continuing issue. Whatever those other comparable 24-hour operations are, where we have them in the city, and whether or not we've seen any negative impact kind of emerge from those locations.
Sure.
Just would be good to have an answer to, because I don't know that we have the answer tonight. All right, and that's pretty much what I have for now.
Thank you. Commissioner Wu?
Yes, the chore today is basically three motions. One motion is to change from A1 to which is not currently an agricultural use there, right? The other two is regarding the operation on the drawing of the McDonald, right? So that it has a conditional use permit. My first question addresses what is already there, the existing use. The existing use adjacent to where the McDonald will go is Statler Brothers, a bar, a eyebrow place, Del Taco, and a couple other small businesses. Am I right?
That's correct.
So Del Taco is a fast food place, right?
Correct.
But it doesn't have the parking that is being proposed as the McDonald site is proposing with lighting and landscaping and the whole thing, right? Currently, Del Taco does not have that.
Currently, the general center as a whole has lighting to
Yeah.
what respect equal to McDonald's, I can't say, but there is parking and landscaping and lighting.
And there's already existing lighting there for the parking lot for Statler Brothers as well, and also some trees that could use some water or something, right? Okay. You're proposing looking at land use goal 2, 3, and some other economic goal, which means that in approving the site, we're setting some goals that we're hopefully by approving this, we will achieve those kind of land use goal that will actually serve as a betterment for the economics of the city and also the other things listed under those goals, right?
That's right. The city underwent a multi-year, I think 7-year process to update the general plan,
Right.
which included extensive community outreach, outreach to this body as well and the body of city council, numerous surveys, numerous meetings. And that was this general plan land use designation was a result of that. Part of it was to clean up the site as well, but the other part was to make sure it was consistent.
Kind of clean up and trying to get more consistency out of our general plan for a while now.
That's correct.
Okay. In terms of the consistency with the general plan, there's the consistency with when we approve the conditional use permit, as we've seen time and time, the diligence of staff monitoring it over time, make sure that what is promised or what the commission asks for is done. And I just want to reiterate for the public, that's what we do. And we have done, right? So the things that you mentioned in terms of the mitigation, we will see being carried over time in terms of our due diligence and monitoring. Right. Okay. So right now you do not anticipate that the lighting that will be there. And my question regarding lighting is it soft lighting or white lighting? And the difference between the two was considered in order so that it will not shine. You said it would not be directional, so it won't shine on the residents, behind there. And the reason for that is the parking lot is here, the lighting is drive-through here, but the building itself is kind of in the way, right?
So there's no specific, there's no decision on the lighting type this second, but as part of the review process, we did review a photometric study. And the point of that was to ensure that there was the sufficient lighting levels at property lines that were adjacent to single family homes. So it wouldn't be a nuisance.
So as the building goes through, you're going to be monitoring that.
We will finalize the photometric study to ensure that, and we will review the light standard packages to ensure that they're shielded and light doesn't kind of shine on properties that are residentially zoned or used for residential purposes.
Regarding the parking, how many new parking spaces will be provided, by McDonald's?
There's 32 parking stalls required and 32 proposed.
Which is not there right now for Del Taco, and the uses on that corner. Right. Okay, I want to ask a question regarding the police report. The police report is for that corner, right, of Tustin and Santa Clara, which includes, Stigler Brothers and all that. It's not currently a report of accidents and things related to McDonald's, right?
That's correct. 2 reports were generated within 500 feet of each property. And yes,
Right.
there's residential uses, commercial uses, the shopping center, the CHP office that all fall within the 500-foot radius. So it's not specific to these 2 sites, but it does include this area.
Right, so basically, it's the existing pattern that has been there with Stigler Brothers and Tustin Road being a major street, right?
It's, yes, within the last year, there's calls to service within 500 feet, which does include the shopping center.
Okay. So I'm beginning to form a picture, am I right? In term of reviewing the plan for the construction and bringing it in within consistent conformity with the general plan. Staff have worked with the developer to try to mitigate a lot of things on behalf of the community, right? So that it would enhance the environment and also allow it to bring jobs in the neighborhood and all that. Because I think in previous meeting, we talked about the generation of more youth-oriented jobs.
Staff did work with the property owners and the applicant to ensure that the design is what you see today. There's an entirely different location for it. So yes, we did work with the
So
applicant.
can we go back to the plan where the landscaping is? The previous one with the trees. So this is being proposed by the developer in terms of putting the trees on this side where it goes into the other neighborhood house going down Santa Clara. You got a buffer zone down there too, right? And
Yes.
further down Santa Clara is a cemetery, right?
Yes, to the west.
Right. So there's traffic going down there at different times too. Because that's where people go, going down Santa Clara, unless you're going to the neighborhoods where these residents go. And I'm just trying to get my bearing. There's also landscaping where the parking, the parking spaces will be.
That's correct.
Okay, and there's a little buffer landscaping between that and the driveway that is adjacent to Del Taco. Right,
Small planters, yes.
yeah, okay. So nothing really changes with the ingress and egress for that lane coming out of Stigler Brothers onto Santa Clara, right?
It'll be rebuilt, but it's the same driveway location.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramos.
Yes, thank you. I would just like to start by acknowledging all of the public comments that were received. So I actually lived in this area. I would have been within the noticing vicinity, so I'm very happy to see just the level of involvement. I read all 75 public comments that were sent to the Planning Commission by this afternoon in their entirety. So I just want to thank you all for participating and engaging. And there were also a handful in Spanish, so gracias por mandar sus comentarios en español también. And I read through them and I noticed a few recurring themes with the concerns. So there was a lot of concern over traffic and safety. I also noticed a few public comment emails mentioned attempts by the local condominium community to install gates or add additional parking on that street, and they were met with traffic concerns. So I guess that's my first question for staff. Were those traffic studies reviewed when this new traffic study was being conducted? And was there any overlap in the concerns? And if there was, what would make them different this time around?
Thank you, Commissioner. You mentioned a couple of things, so let me try to understand the question. you mentioned that there was community concerns when they wanted to install a gate at the
Yeah, so
community.
from my understanding, the condominium community immediately across the street from this proposed project has attempted to, in the past, install gates to their community entry. And they also have attempted to add additional parking spots on Santa Clara immediately in front of the community. But they've been rejected by the city over traffic concerns. So I was wondering if there were any traffic studies conducted whenever those permits were requested, and if those traffic studies were reviewed for this project, and if there was any alignment in the concerns that the city may have identified whenever those permits were requested by this community with this new project, and if there were, what would make the concerns different this time around?
Sure. Thank you for the clarification, Commissioner. So as far as I know, there's no studies that are required for that type of request by the community. I can't speak to when community projects require or request a gate. There's what's called a queuing requirement. So cars don't overflow into the street. That queuing or stacking requirement is 60 feet long, which is sufficient for a car who's not supposed to turn in there, who does turn in there on accident, to not flow into the street. There's also requirements for turnaround areas for that car to get out. So my understanding of the existing conditions is those conditions were not met for the site. There isn't sufficient queuing area. There isn't sufficient turnaround area. So that's why a vehicle gate is not something that can be installed in that community. That's my understanding. We do have members of our Public Works Department as well here that may be able to speak to that. In regards to the parking, I do know that there's red curbing as well, and there is issues with site visibility. So whenever someone is proposing parking on the street and it creates additional safety issues because someone pulling out of the community can't see, it's generally not something that the Public Works Department would approve in terms of siting. So there's no traffic studies to say that. Those are just based on standards and policies and safety. As far as the traffic information that was prepared for this project, it didn't specifically address those because they weren't related to the project.
Thank you for the clarification. And then my next questions are also about traffic. So I know that Santa Clara has recently been narrowed to add a bike lane. Was that taken into consideration in the traffic study, or were there any concerns raised by the fact that Santa Clara is just a 2-lane street and parts of that street are now narrower for the bike lanes?
Thank you again, Commissioner. I will probably refer this question to our applicant's consultant, Urban Crossroads, but I can't speak to the fact that all existing conditions for this project were analyzed as part of the transportation analysis. So all existing conditions for Santa Clara, all existing conditions for Tustin, and even some other intersections as well to ensure that the project wasn't going to be detrimental. So if the existing conditions show bike lanes, narrowing as you referred to it, then it was included as part of the project analysis. But again, I'll refer to Urban Crossroads to definitively answer that question.
Thank you. My next question is on traffic signals, potentially new ones. So I know you mentioned that the applicant is open to adding any, if I understood correctly, any new traffic signals or traffic lighting that the city might request. Is the city considering requesting any as of now?
Thank you for that. And let me be clear, there would be no traffic signals required or proposed. That actually was part of the study for the transportation analysis for each driveway, actually 2 driveways, the Santa Clara one and the driveway entrance, and Tustin and the I guess southernmost driveway, and no traffic signal was warranted. What we refer to as other kind of measures for traffic safety hasn't been defined yet. What I do know is that the applicant has expressed willingness to place traffic signs on site, and like a no left turn, for example, on the exit of Santa Clara and the driveway. We've heard from the community that there's perceived concerns that vehicles are turning left when they exit the site and causing unsafe conditions. And so there would be a sign that they'd be willing to install at that location, and a secondary sign at the exit of the drive-through area that would direct vehicles towards the left and use the 2 other driveway exits on the site. Now, of course, we can't predict, vehicle behaviors or people behaviors. So there may still be some situations where they do exit when they're not supposed to the left. In those situations, we may want to consider other measures that could help prevent that. Certainly not a traffic signal though, but maybe potential bollards that would kind of dissuade people from turning left. The project has been reviewed extensively by Public Works and Traffic Engineering, and there's no way we can install a traffic median, for example. So that's just not likely. But certainly there's options on the table that we can discuss. We just don't know what those are exactly right now.
Thank you. I'd also like to just echo Commissioner Escamilla's earlier comment on preservation. So I'm also interested in the preservation of the homes that are there, and also would be curious to see what reactivation of the agricultural use could be like. So I know that there are many, I guess like community programs that are doing things like community gardening, but beyond that, like more agricultural use. So there is Crece that's operating also in Ward 3 out of a space that's being used by a church. And I know of a few other efforts. So just want to note that. And then my last question is, has the city had any direct communication with the preschool directly across the street? So I asked because I know when there was another project considered by the commission, the preschool had a lot of concerns. So I'm just wondering, and I'm going to ask the applicant this as well, but I'm wondering if the city has had any contact with the preschool. I don't know that I saw any official public comment come from the preschool as an institution.
I don't know that we saw any either, Commissioner, but to answer your question, no, we haven't had any direct conversations with them. I do know that the applicant has. The extent of those conversations, I don't know specific, so that might be a question for them.
Thank you. Those are all my questions for staff as of now.
Thank you, Commissioner. I had the same question regarding traffic control and if there would be a possibility for some sort of median, but you just answered my question. My other question was also regarding traffic, specifically on the entrance that's going into the center. And I'm not too sure based on how the map looks, but would this entrance interfere with the drive-through functions of the Del Taco next door, or is it, or it doesn't interfere at all?
It would not interfere. Actually, there is no change proposed to this drive aisle here. You can see that the drive-through lane for Del Taco kind of curves around here. There's this kind of patch that's used for emergency services, really only in case a vehicle needed to exit, but it's not a direct path into drive-through to cut or anything like that. But the only changes along this area would be the rebuilding of the drive apron, the entrance into the drive aisle, but this would remain the same. Obviously the improvements to the site would be different with new planters, but this would remain the same.
Perfect. That's the end of my questions. The public hearing is now open. The commission does have questions for the applicant, so if the applicant would like to.
Excuse me, I have a few more questions quickly. I'm sorry. I have to go back.
Commissioner Benninger.
How many 24-hour establishments are there in this area?
We don't have an exact count for those. They're not 24 hours, but Del Taco technically is open after hours. They're just not within 150 feet of a residential unit, so they weren't subject to a conditional use permit at the time. I can't answer that question. I don't have that number for you.
Do you know if Stater Brothers is 24 hours?
Which one?
Stater Brothers?
Not likely, no.
Okay. So we don't know how much activity there is in that neighborhood anyway, because of 24-hour activity. I think I've told there's quite a bit. When the city also looks at a project like this, do they take into consideration a large number of fast food restaurants in an area?
In terms of existing counts in the immediate vicinity?
Right, so we don't saturate an area.
To an extent, but not specifically, right? So for this project, for example, someone proposes the project, requires certain entitlements, and we're tasked with ensuring that it complies with the findings and evaluate the project in its whole and present that to the planning commission, who's then tasked to make the decision as to whether you think it's saturated or not. In our recommendation, we're proposing approval because we feel it meets the zoning general plan policies and we've made a determination that it wouldn't be.
And ownership, McDonald's has that history of actually owning the building where the restaurants have been. In this case, who's gonna be owner of the building, McDonald's or Stater Brothers?
That would be a question for the applicant as well.
And thank you for asking a question on the school. That was gonna be one of my questions. Have they responded or not? Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Yeah, I was just wondering, could you point me to where the, oh my gosh, the baseline regulations are for the noise, requirements after hours? So I was just trying to find that and I couldn't anywhere. So I'm not sure, how we treat the noise evaluation. So, certain decibel, middle of the day, no problem. Different decibel, middle of the night, total problem.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, if actually table 3 of the staff report highlights that code section for you and actually provides a table of those maximum decibels for daytime and nighttime.
Perfect. Thank you.
Commissioner Wu.
Yeah, I think Commissioner Carl, when I asked the question regarding, is there a limitation on the number of liquor stores and liquor establishment? We couldn't. So if you can't regulate liquor stores, you can't regulate fast food industry. If, got to find a reason not to reach it, right? I didn't say that very well, did I?
At this point of the public hearing, I would just encourage that the commission ask questions and save your deliberation for after you have heard all of the public testimony. Thank you.
I apologize.
Thank you. I will now call the applicant forward so that the commission can ask questions.
Good evening, commissioners. Thank you, staff. Thank you all for taking the time. My name is Nick Kruder. I represent SRP Stater Bros LLC, also known as Stream Realty Partners. We're the owners of both the McDonald's parcel and the entire shopping center outside of Del Taco. We purchased that center in 2021, and since then we have made a variety of upgrades, and we're going through renovating that entire shopping center. So Commissioner Benninger, one of the things you had talked about was the homeless problem. We noticed that immediately, and we have security that stops there at night. We have started to tow vehicles that we believed are transients, homeless, so on and so forth. Commissioner Escamilla, one of the things that you had asked about was the trees on the front of the property. Those are not oak trees. Those are cedar trees and camphor trees. And then I believe 2 of you had asked about the daycare across the street. We have had multiple conversations with her, and actually one of the things that came about was the no left turn. So she had requested that. We reached out to staff and had proposed we were more than willing to put signage on our property, or, we had talked about, if you've ever been on the 91 express lanes, you've seen those white bollards, that if we were to install those in the center median, we'd be more than willing to do that for public, if Public Works was open to that. I think Commissioner Escamilla, you had talked about the noise from the drive-through. So where the drive-through is located, on the back there, up against Stater Brothers, that is a double thick, so it's 2 walls back to back, 8 feet high, 8 inches thick each. So we don't believe that noise will be an issue. And we also worked with staff on a condition of approval that said, if we do get any complaints for the noise, we were more than willing to address those and take the volume down. I think somebody had mentioned the economic impacts. So this is expected to generate a minimum of 80 part-time and full-time jobs. On top of that, it will be subject to the $20 an hour minimum wage. And with the new California law, anybody that is salary exempt will have to be a minimum of $84,000 a year in salary. So it is subject to that higher wage bracket. Is there anything else that I did not cover? Everyone had asked about?
Commissioner Benninger here. The ownership, that has been famous for owning the building that their restaurants are in. Who's going to be owner of the building?
So we have a ground lease with McDonald's, but we are both subject to a PMA, which is the property maintenance agreement. I mean, I think are you getting at the homeless transient taking care of the property?
No, what I'm getting at was just understanding how McDonald's functions. One of the ways to assess was that in order to control what the restaurants offer, they ended up owning buildings and franchising them out, but they owned the building.
Yeah, so this is currently a corporate store, and it could be a franchise store in the future.
So the owner then is McDonald's right now?
Correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner Scammia?
Yeah, no, I was just wondering, would you happen to have like the average like sales tax, or sorry, average expected sales tax? I know you went to employment as the economic impact. You don't necessarily have to answer, but if you do have that number, that would be helpful at this point in time.
I don't have that number, but I do have McDonald's here if,
Yeah, no, take your time, circle around.
okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Wu? Commissioner Ramos?
Yes, have you all met directly with I know you mentioned that you met with the preschool, so thank you for sharing those comments. Have you all met with the HOA for the complex directly across the street?
So we had a company Canvas, and they met with everybody that was in that 1,000-foot radius, and we garnered 400 signatures. So I didn't personally meet with them. I personally met with the daycare because I knew we all knew that was going to be something that was going to come up. I did not personally meet with the HOA, but know that someone from our team did.
Thank you. And then one more question just related to a disclosure that happened earlier. Is former Mayor Pulido a part of the consultant team for the applicant?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
No questions right now for the applicant. Recording secretary, have we received any written communication?
I'm just, I'd like a couple
Commissioner
questions
Benninger?
back. There is McDonald's, another store nearby. How far away is that location?
3.3 miles.
Okay,
It's on Lincoln and 17th, directly across from the train. track.
Bristol and 17th.
No, Lincoln and 17th, there's a McDonald's there. It's about a mile away.
Okay. Then 1.2.
Thank you.
do you think that's going to hurt them or hurt you guys?
I would refer that question to the McDonald's operations team. Can you answer that, Troy?
And while he's coming up to the podium, if I could just remind people not to talk over one another and not to have anyone shout out from the audience unless I suppose they're responding to, on the applicant's team.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Troy Stevenson on behalf of McDonald's. With regard to other restaurants, what McDonald's will do is they will actually do an impact study on those restaurants. If that is done by franchisees where it would impact their business, they are either given a rent reduction or access to possibly another restaurant or something. Concessions are made to not negatively impact the surrounding businesses.
My questions are done. Thank you.
Commissioner Scammia?
Well, now that we have McDonald's here, are you able to answer that question of what the general expected tax revenue would be for a site like this in a comparable location?
I can give you a range for that, but I cannot give you.
Exact projected. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So a low to high range for that would be anywhere from $250,000 to $600,000 in sales tax annually.
And this might actually be for the operator then. So right now, we currently have this situation where the proposal is for a 24-hour drive-through operation in a location that already has another drive-through that isn't quite 24 hours and operating as a 24-hour drive-through. In my ideal world, I guess the proposal would be switched in which, the 24-hour operation would be more closer to a corner with 4, commercial properties all around it. Was there any discussion earlier between the private parties on trying to figure that out potentially as, swapping one for the other, or is it just, this is the site that you have to develop and it's really kind of being seen in isolation?
It's being seen in isolation. I know there was a question earlier about the drive-throughs intermingling. The drive-throughs do not intermingle because the access to their drive-through is on the Tustin Avenue side, and then it exits on the Tustin Avenue side.
Yeah, and definitely don't have any worries so much about the intermingling so much as the, where's the activity going to be on a late hour? And I would typically move that over to a major commercial corridor and you are adjacent, but yeah, right now I think we're having this debate because it's in a boundary area.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Wu?
Can you elaborate on your future plan? Could you say that you are upgrading that whole shopping center? And can you relate it to the other economics of up and down Tustin Avenue? Seems like other investors and developers are looking at it from the chicken fill down the way and.
Yeah, correct.
So-
There's a
so-
Chick-fil-A and then there's a Chick-fil-A and something else down on 17th.
Right. So,
Um,
so you guys are taking a note as to the economics of the area in terms of value and food service, right?
Yeah, I mean, so our plan with the shopping center is, and we've sent this to staff as well. We already have one upgrade in progress, which is we're replacing all of the storefront piece by piece. We are planning on renovating all of Stater Brothers as well as the full Stater Brothers facade. We have already replaced exterior lighting because of we know we've had a homeless problem, specifically in the back area where Stater Brothers unloads all of their trucks. At some point, we will renovate the landscaping. At some point, we will do all of that. What is here and now is Stater Brothers will either be the end of this year or early next year, and the storefront and facade is happening as we speak.
So you have a long-term investment in
Yes, we're
not
not.
retail, but the community as well.
That's correct. We're not a fix and flip operation, if that's what you were asking.
Thank you.
Commissioner Ramos, do you have any questions?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, applicant. Recording secretary, have we received any written communication or is there a member of the audience that would like to comment on this item?
We have received public comment prior to the 3:30 deadline. It has been published online and distributed to the commission. If you're attending this meeting in person and would like to comment on this item, please fill out a request to speak form and turn it into the secretary. If you're participating via Zoom and would like to comment on this item, please select the hand icon and unmute yourself. If you're calling in and would like to comment on this item, please dial 9 and then 6 to unmute yourself. Chair, we have 2 speakers via Zoom.
Question to Ali. Do we have Zoom speak first or do we have the members of the audience speak first?
It's generally at the pleasure of the chair, but typically it's the audience followed by Zoom. Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. We'll move forward with comments from the audience. I will pose to the audience, since we do have a number of folks, if I can have a show of hands of how many folks filled out a request to speak form and are part of the opposing group. Thank you. And can I have a show of hands of the folks who filled out a form and are part of the, are in here of support of the item? If we could have each group select a representative or 2 to come speak in order to move the meeting along, that would be great if you're interested in that. Yes. If no one would like to volunteer as a representative, we can limit time to 2 minutes per speaker. Is that okay with the commission? Yes, okay, perfect. So we will start with David Denning, and then we will move on to Mike Tariff and then Winston Covington. If you can approach the microphone.
Work? Does that work? Hi, good evening. My name is Dave Denny. I am the president of Woodland North Homeowners Association. So Woodland North community is directly across the street from the proposed McDonald's that's going in. On behalf of our community, a majority of the homeowners are opposing the McDonald's to go in due to the significant traffic that is already currently existing, the increase in homelessness that we have seen in the as well for the Del Taco that is there on just in the same parking lot. It was mentioned about the traffic study for the gates in our community. That was a project, I believe, 4 years ago that we tried to have the city approve. And based on the traffic study at the time of the significant congestion, we were not allowed as a community to put the gates into to keep our community safe for the city decline that to happen. So I don't understand how McDonald's is going a 24-hour operation will decrease the amount of traffic on Santa Clara heading to Tustin. And since the city has already declined that, how this project could even possibly be considered to go through. So I know I'm limited on time, and that's all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you. If I can have Mike Tariff, Winston Covington, and Roger Shortall start a line so that we can move the comments. Thank you.
Good evening, commission members. My name is Mike Tardif. I'm a resident of the Portola Park neighborhood nearby the proposed McDonald's. Santa Clara is not a commercial arterial street, which would be more appropriate for a high volume traffic operation as this McDonald's. Santa Clara is a connector street between Tustin Avenue and Grand Avenue, with several ingress-egress street connections to Santa Ana neighborhoods. Santa Clara is difficult enough to enter onto from these neighborhood streets without the additional burden of McDonald's traffic. Speaking of that left-hand turn out of the drive there, the developer is pretending that traffic exiting onto Santa Clara will be directed to make a right turn only. Well, there's a problem with that because it is very legal to make a left-hand turn there. You can tell by the lines in the street. It's just a double yellow line, and you can cross a double yellow line. The two exit points from the restaurant property to the main entrance drive of the shopping center is a traffic nightmare. Making a right-hand turn from the restaurant onto that drive, which feeds the entire shopping center, will require turning into opposing traffic entering the shopping center. It's just ridiculous. This main exit for the shopping center combined with McDonald's traffic will not be able to handle the increased flow efficiently. It's absurd. It's going to back up traffic onto Santa Clara, very near Tustin Avenue. It is a recipe for congestion and collisions. Please deny. Thank you.
Thank you. Winston Covington, Roger Shortall, and Dave Helbig.
Good evening, Madam Vice Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Winston Covington, and I'm here speaking tonight as the chairman of the Portola Park and Meredith Parkwood Neighborhood Associations. Combined, that makes up about 650 single-family homeowners. We're located between Santa Clara and 17th, Tustin to Grand, and we are very much opposed to this project. The primary reason, as you heard it tonight, I'll say it again, safety. It's traffic safety. If you picture yourself at the intersection of Grand and Santa Clara heading east towards Tustin, other than the bike lanes, it is very much only a 2-lane road. It's just a very short distance before Tustin Avenue where it actually turns into 4 lanes. Well, let's turn that around. We're at Tustin Avenue going west now on Santa Clara. As soon as you can see in the diagram, as soon as you pass Del Taco, it starts to merge back into 1 lane. This is a 4,000 square foot restaurant. This is a dual lane drive-through right across from a very busy preschool, next door to a very large condominium complex. Next to that are hundreds of apartments. Next to that, we have my neighborhood, not counting what's on the other side of the cemetery, most of which is on a 2-lane road. And along that road, there are several bus stops where kids and travel, going to school and coming back, travel all day long. Now, I go past 17th and Tustin all the time. I see the traffic with Chick-fil-A. I see the traffic at In-N-Out. I see that because they have double lanes. I've even seen private security having to direct that traffic for safety. There's been a lot of accidents over there. Can you imagine the impact of something similar in a location that's verging from 2 lanes down to 1? It isn't safe. It is not a good fit for the neighborhood. I have put a post on Nextdoor
Thank
just
you.
about
You're at
5 days
time.
ago.
Thank you. We'll now have Roger Shortall. Thank you.
Thank you.
Roger, please join us.
Roger.
Shortall. There we go.
Yeah, I'm a neighbor. I live on Ridgewood, 2113. And yes, I've grown up there 48 years there. We've watched this place grow, and my kids at this age, they're driving. They're not really well equipped for driving as much as you think. And going down there, no, they don't want to go to. They don't want to go shopping for their mother at Stater Brothers. It's too crowded. The traffic is very bad. So the McDonald's is only going to add much more traffic. Anybody else will probably say the same thing. So I thank you.
Thank you. We'll have Dale Helvig.
Good evening. Just point of clarification, Jack in the Box Dine-In recently approved on First Street, closes at midnight for dine-in and 3 a.m. for drive-through. Sales tax, 250,000, 600,000, we get 1% of that. So that's less than $9,000, what we benefit from. The driveway that we're talking about, if you're turning right into Stater Brothers and trying to turn right out of Stater Brothers at that driveway, people are queued up back to Tustin to try and get in because 2 cars can't negotiate that driveway at the same time. It's too narrow to make a turn quickly. I sent a letter in. It didn't seem to get into the package. I don't know if you got it or not, but Robert Henry Newcomb owned a shoe store for 60 years in downtown Santa Ana. It was among Orange County's earliest settlers. The ranch house that McDonald's wants to level is all that remains of the property his grandfather purchased in 1883. The Newcomb family grandchildren are 5th generation Southern Californians. Progress is not progress if it removes some of the history that helps define what made Santa Ana. Not only would McDonald's remove some of the history of Santa Ana, but it would also add an establishment that one is available nearby at 17th and Lincoln, 1.2 miles away, and will create a traffic nightmare at the corner of Santa Clara and Tustin. The newly revised general plan did not feel this needed rezoning, nor does the local community. Keep these homes and see if they are available for new Santa Ana residents that can use a home, not a burger. Talk to Habitat for Humanity and see if they can use them. I recommend that you deny the conditional use permits, the amendment, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we'll call Mario Gutierrez. And then Raul Maldonado, and then Jessica, Susana Gutierrez, if we can form a line. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I have a business on the center, and so I don't see any problem with the McDonald's going in the place. So I think the traffic is bad enough already, but it might bring a lot of people to the other business. So hey, it has ups and downs. So I have nothing against McDonald's to go in the place. Thank you.
Thank you. Raul Maldonado, Susana Gutierrez, and Angelica Melendez.
Good evening. I don't know how should I address you. This is the first time I'm here though, but I'd like to start by saying that I'm in favor of the McDonald's. Señorita Ramos, do you have family? You say you live nearby?
Excuse me. If you can just provide comments, this is not a questions and
I'm
answers.
sure living nearby, there will be a McDonald's. You probably have children. You probably will take the children to McDonald's. I happen to be will be a tenant in this new shopping center or the existing shopping center where the McDonald's will be. And it's unfortunate that we do get old. And it seems to me that the people that are opposing this project are older than us. You know, we need to live and need to improve our lives, and we need to move forward, and we need to be successful in whatever ventures we do. I happen to have the opportunity to open an ice cream store in this shopping center, and I look forward for the McDonald's because it will bring business to my store, because kids drive their parents to the McDonald's and they will drive them to my store. I'm in favor of this store. Thank you for hearing me, and I hope that we will see a McDonald's there.
Thank you. Susana Gutierrez and then Angelica Melendez.
My name's Susana Gutierrez, and I'm here in support for the new project. I think it's a good idea because it's already a commercial center there. So, and I think it's like a opportunity for employment. I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Angelica.
My name is Angelica Melendez. I'm with the gentleman. I have kids there in high school and they need to get a part-time job. And what's better than living walking distance from this place? And then the pay that they're gonna have is not a pay that they will get in any other kind of job. So because of that, I'm here to support the McDonald's. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to call the applicant up if they are willing to answer any of the questions or
We have
comments that were.
speakers via Zoom.
Oh, my apologies. Speakers on Zoom.
Yes, good evening. My name is Jay Aguilera, and I'm not in the 40 age range, but I believe that, as already suggested, that there'll be an economic impact of negative obsolescence and functional obsolescence in the area. We already have a McDonald's that's 1.5 miles at 10, 11, 17th Street with the transient population, the crime rate in the Santiago neighborhood. And I believe that this will be impacted in the same area of this neighborhood as we see it already with the after hours Del Taco, with the Del Taco up the street on Tustin by the 22 freeway. And my vote or my comments again is that this will be a negative impact with the traffic. And my question was there a traffic impact report already done in the area and an environment impact report? Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker,
Hi, I don't know if you guys can hear me.
we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Miguel de Dios, and speaking on my age group, by the way, is 26 years old. I just got married and I bought a home across the street of this McDonald's being built, and I oppose the McDonald's there. Look, I don't know when this all became about, money, business, profit, but it's all about the community. It's about, safety. It's about keeping those kids safe. And with that McDonald's being built there, it's not only going to increase, the homelessness around the area, but it's going to negatively impact everybody across the street. Like maybe it might increase jobs, but I don't know what. It just doesn't make sense to me for us to build a McDonald's when there's one literally 1.2 miles away. Like, how does that make sense? Let's not give McDonald's like this. I don't know. Let's not.
Are you still with us?
He's still on the website, on the Zoom. What's his name? Miguel, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Did you want to finish your thought?
Yeah, I just said, it's about safety around here. It's already congested as it is. With that McDonald's being built, new homeowners or families that are younger, it's gonna impact us in a negative way. Like we have little ones growing up, like 5-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 1-year-olds. Like crime's gonna increase, guys. Like that's really not fair. Like for the younger generation. Like I get businesses are having McDonald's increase sales to your ice cream shop. That doesn't make sense. You have to look at the data and do data. Like, I just think it's going to be a bad idea. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now call the applicant.
Hi. Oh, sorry.
There was another one. Oh, okay. My apologies. I didn't realize there was more speakers. Here we go.
Hi, this is Vanessa Charco. I'm a new homeowner of the condos right across the street at Woodland condominiums. My husband and I actually just purchased our condo at the age of 25 years old. So that's something that we're very proud of. We work hard. My husband works for the city. I'm a special education teacher. So we give back to our environment and we really care about our environment. And sorry, I'm like talking fast. And when we bought this home, what we took into consideration was the community, the safety of the neighborhood, and the community and safety of the neighborhood, which was a big win for us purchasing here. And like the other person mentioned, that only older people are opposing. I don't agree with that. I'm 25 years old and I completely disagree. I'm opposing to this. McDonald's, you don't have to, just because it's more convenient for you to feed your child McDonald's doesn't mean it's okay. What we should be doing is moving forward and working together as a community to help bring nutrition to children. And instead of building a McDonald's, I feel like we should give back to the community by building a garden, something that will actually help children around here. I grew up in Santa Ana. I've been here for 25 years, and I really don't like seeing that people just want to make profit and not support the residents of the community. And I don't know where the applicant, I believe, of the McDonald's received the information that the closest McDonald's is 3 miles away. It's actually 1.2 miles away. And then there's another one 1.6 miles away. There's another one 2.1 miles away. And then 2.2 miles away. And then 2.3 miles away. And this is me living across the street from where the McDonald's is being.
You're at time. Thank you so much. Our next speaker.
Olivia, please unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Olivia Longoria. I'm a owner of the apartments across the street. We have 87 apartments here, and I tell you for sure it's already very dangerous to cross the streets. All the people that lives here cross the streets to get to the marketplace, all the business around, and it's very dangerous. The cars won't stop, even with the lights on green. It's very risky to cross the streets already. So I can guess, or I can imagine with a new business with the dimensions, the traffic is gonna be very bad. Also, we have been with a lot of parking problems for years, and the city never helped us with that. We have been asking for the city to open all the streets for parking, and we never had that answer back. So it's already another problem. And like somebody mentioned before, it's a lot of homeless around, and I guess they're gonna be around more often, and it's gonna be more dangerous. So
Thank you, Olivia. Our next speaker.
thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, please unmute yourself. Michelle? Debbie, you may unmute yourself.
Good evening. I've owned in Woodland North for a number of years,
And I know that there was a traffic study that was conducted or presented by Mr. Gomez about in the course of the last 5 years, the number of collisions were 60 some odd. But I hope that the commission would take into account the fact that that was during COVID-19, when none of us were driving anywhere for almost 2 years. And so those collisions were probably a very low number one, and those must have been traffic collisions only, because you have to consider the number of pedestrians that are on that intersection at any time. Some of those people have been hit, some of those people have been encountered, and there's a bad pedestrian issue already. Another thing being the 24-hour McDonald's. That is an impossibility for the residents of the community. This is a homeowner environment. All around there are residents. It just does not make any sense. The quality of life is horrible when you add something to it like this. The people that are in favor of it don't live there. The people that have come up this evening and said that they wanted to be represented in favor of it, they do not live there. My comment is, please vote no. Santa Ana has plenty of restaurants. Go right down the street, walking distance, and you'll find Raising Cane's, Chick-fil-A, In-N-Out, Starbucks. You've added so many restaurants in the course of the last 2 years, right in that immediate area. It's ridiculous. Those are my comments. Thank you very much for everyone who has made comments against this project.
Thank you, Debbie. Our next speaker.
Michelle, this is your last call. Please unmute yourself.
Signatures to build this McDonald's. And
Michelle, we can't hear you. We're going to go on with the next speaker on Zoom. iPhone speaker, can you unmute yourself?
my computer keeps.
Good evening,
Okay.
council. Can you hear me?
Okay, hello?
Hello?
Yeah, hi, my name is Mary Falcon. I live across the street. I'm at Woodland North Condominiums. I've been here for 25 years. And there, now that we have these little things for the bikes and everything, we have a lot of traffic, a lot of people that are on the bikes going through there. And then we have the little preschool that we have parents come and drop off their kids. And there's traffic as it is when I have to get out of my condominium complex. Either way, I have traffic coming both sides, coming down from Grand and coming down from Tustin. So I oppose of not having McDonald's there, because like everybody says, we have one down the street, 17 in Lincoln. And then we got all these other restaurants here up down the street on 17 in Tustin. So I say no to McDonald's. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Marian. Our next speaker will be
Resident with the telephone number ending in 185, please unmute yourself.
Good evening, council. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening. I'm calling in support of this new McDonald's project. As we heard earlier, there is a problem of homelessness in the area, and I'm hoping that the new McDonald's is going to help clean some of that up. With the new business, new people going to support this business, the homelessness will hopefully be deterred from going there. And I also think the city could help with this new revenue stream. could get help. Thank you so much, and I support this McDonald's project.
Thank you. We have one more speaker.
P. Kane, please unmute yourself.
Yes, I wanted to oppose this project. The traffic is going to be ridiculous. If you live on one of the side streets coming up Santa Clara towards Tustin Avenue, you will never be able to turn left because the proposed exit from McDonald's is to the right on Santa Clara. So the traffic will never stop. So my position is for the safety reasons, for Tustin and Santa Clara safety reasons, and I would like to turn left out of my property, so I oppose.
Thank you.
That was the last speaker from our Zoom.
Thank you so much. Now I will call the applicant to answer any comments or questions that were made during the public comment section.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I'm going to call up our traffic consultant from Urban Crossroads to address the traffic issues. But one thing that we had heard, I think it was from Commissioner Escamilla and from several other residents, was I think the last 24-hour drive-through was proposed or approved 5 years ago. The last one approved drive-through, there was a 3 to 5 time limit on there. We would be open to accepting a closure from 3 to 5 for the drive-through, so it's not completely 24 hours. If that's helpful for both the residents and the commission. And then as far as homelessness goes, as we stated earlier, we have security that stops by nightly. I have personally been there with Dawn, who's our SVP of Asset Management, and placed calls for service with Santa Ana PD to get homeless residents and transients offsite. It is something that everybody is dealing with, and we will continue to make sure that's not a problem. Both us and McDonald's have to sign what's called a property maintenance agreement with the city, which holds us to certain standards. Robert, can you come up and?
I do have one question for the applicant before he steps back. Have you met with the neighborhood associations and the condominiums in the area?
I personally haven't, but one of our representatives did. The only person I personally met with was Kim from the daycare center across the street, and then all of our individual tenants.
Can we have the presenter speak and then we'll ask questions of the applicant?
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Robert Vu. My firm Urban Crossroads prepared the traffic study. I'm a licensed traffic engineer in the state of California, and I'm happy to answer any of your questions. Regarding the bike lane on Santa Clara, our traffic study considers all existing and proposed bike lanes in the city. And the addition of the bike lanes does not affect the throughput of Santa Clara. And therefore, our conclusions in the traffic study would be consistent with and without that plan improvement. There's another question regarding the driveway width. The current driveway meets city standards for two-way traffic, and the addition of the proposed project would not affect that driveway width, and two-way traffic would continue to be operable. And then regarding pedestrians and bicyclists, there were several visibility enhancements done at the intersection in 2023. The improvements consist of high visibility crosswalks at the intersection, high visibility paint along the project frontage on Santa Clara, and those should alleviate the collision rates of bicyclists, pedestrians, and other users of the road as well. And I believe those were the questions that were brought up during the public comment.
Thank you. Do we have time for the commission to ask questions right now? Perfect. Commissioner Benninger, do you have any questions? Commissioner Escamilla.
All right, sorry. Since you're already here, just figured to save you the trip. The width, I guess, is it the analysis was done and the width is not going to be impacted, but was there any consideration done during the traffic study specifically as to whether or not a widening would assist in any kind of measurable way, right? So right now we're hearing that essentially you can't come in and out of it. And I myself have turned right into this location and have hit my bumper and very narrowly avoided other vehicles kind of coming in the opposite direction. And I'm just wondering if there was any analysis done on potentially widening or looking to at least make that make some sort of improvement to that entryway, if that is a point of worry for the residents.
The specific analysis of changing the driveway width has not done. We concluded that the existing driveway meets city and standards regarding those turning movements.
Okay, so the turning radius is fine. And was there any study done on any kind of potential improvements to prevent or encourage, or really only, how do I say this, make left-hand turns impossible? So any kind of cement, any kind of left-hand protected lanes, anything really to kind of prevent individuals from making what people are saying, or a dangerous left-hand turn across, you know, two lanes potentially.
For the traffic modeling that we do, we consider the existing configuration, and we concluded that the existing configuration can support the project traffic in addition to some of the existing traffic and cumulative developments that haven't been completed either. And our traffic study considers all those users, and we concluded that those turns are acceptable.
Okay, and as far as the modeling went then, so what were the estimates as far as peak hour, like additional trips just from this particular site?
Let me pull that up 1 second. Our trip generation that we provided in the traffic analysis, in the AM peak hour, those consisted of 89 trips. And in the PM peak hour, that consists of 67 trips. And it's important to note that the trips account for both in and out traffic. So one vehicle would produce 2 trips, one going into the site and one exiting. And given that this is a high turnover use, those trips would be accounted for.
And I guess well, that seems low. Obviously you're the traffic engineer, I'm not. But I guess what were those models based off of? Obviously it's not quite the peak hour Chick-fil-A and in and out, but is it really just kind of, you know, what are we looking at when we say, you know, the model is estimating that we're looking at 89 trips, only, you know, 46 or so, or 45, oh my gosh, people going to McDonald's in 1 hour during that peak breakfast and peak dinner time? Like, is like, what are we like using to compare or use as that baseline?
For the traffic study, we utilize what what the industry uses as a trip generation manual. That trip generation manual considers fast food restaurants with and without drive-throughs, high turnover restaurants, and the McDonald's fits within the subcategory fast food restaurant with drive-through. And that data that's collected for this manual, that includes a lot of fast food restaurants like McDonald's. And it's important to note that the high generator of traffic of fast food restaurants like Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out, those are considered outliers to that subcategory. And as a lot of people brought up, there's a few existing McDonald's within 5-mile radius, and most likely the traffic is going to be pulled from those existing restaurants, and there's not going to be a significant generator at this McDonald's compared to the other locations. Typically what you see at In-N-Out and Chick-fil-A, they have less locations in a given radius, and given that the McDonald's is in an area with the proposed project is in an area with existing McDonald's, those trip generation projections are likely accurate.
And yeah, thank you for that. I really appreciate the detailed explanation. And I guess the question that comes to my mind, and this is no fault of your own, but the way that the traffic study is essentially the base requirements are going to the manual, checking the category and then saying like, well, according to studies of anything in this particular category, this is what we estimate. but it doesn't necessarily require any sort of in-person live count of comparable, McDonald's drive-throughs in the near like 5 mile radius, right? So we don't have good numbers as far as like peak hour trips from McDonald's drive-throughs in a comparable location in this particular community, right? That data just doesn't exist and isn't required as part of the traffic study.
Right, that's correct.
Okay, so again, I just pointed just because I think that it would be good to have, and obviously isn't a requirement, and not a fault of your own, but just for us on a policy side, something that I would like to see, where we have a little bit more solid data when we have comparable situations like this. So that's all I have today.
Thank you. Commissioner Benninger?
Before you step away, I appreciate your work in explaining the situation to us. Is there one thing right now that you would see from your experience that you would advise us to do to reduce the concern for traffic in this location?
At this time, the traffic study and the recommendations in it would not propose any new changes to the traffic configuration of the study area.
That's what the study shows. But if tomorrow they say, we do have a traffic problem, what would be the first thing you would propose to change?
Our traffic study analyzes any potential existing and future deficiencies, given that our data is not showing that the project is not creating any new deficiencies. We wouldn't recommend any additional mitigation on top of what's already there and existing.
Okay, I do have a question for the proposed owner of the project. So does anyone else have a question for traffic study?
Thank you.
I don't know if this is allow me whether I can do this or not, but I'm going to go ahead and say it and tell me if I'm wrong. I share the concern of the condo residents. Why were your gates denied and yet this project is going ahead? So are you willing to build the gates for the condo project?
I don't believe we can, and I only know that because I've had previous projects in Santa Ana, and the city of Santa Ana's turning requirement is much higher, and we actually tried to get a variance through on that project, and we were denied that variance. And this is it. I don't know the exact dimensions, but it is different than a lot of other jurisdictions that I have personally worked in. And the reason we were denied that variance on that specific project was if we give you a variance, we have to give everybody a variance, and we don't want to set that standard. So I don't think that we could agree to that.
Ali, did you want to provide clarification?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair. Just for context regarding the project across the street versus the project at hand today, I do want to point out that we need to focus on apples to apples discussions. And while your question, Commissioner Benninger, is very well understood, the reason for the gates being not able to be installed at the community across the street was not necessarily tied to traffic, which is what the majority of the conversation is on today with McDonald's. It's because the existing configuration of that community would preclude it from physically being able to accommodate the gates in a manner that provides for the sufficient turnaround space and the sufficient room for like the tail of a fire truck to not block Santa Clara Avenue, let's say, create safety hazards. Today, the primary discussion is on traffic. So to be kind of linking an applicant across the street to providing gates on another project across the street, we have to caution the commission against conditioning off-site improvements that are not related to land use. Those are more public works and traffic safety discussions for a completely separate property. That's just my 2 cents to help guide the conversations with the commission.
Appreciate that.
And if I could as well, so the conditions need to be reasonably related to the use that's being requested for this property.
One last question. Seems like the driveway is of much concern. Is it even feasible? Could that driveway be increased, made wider?
That's a public works question, I believe, because that would be different than the city's standard.
If we could clarify, Commissioner, are you referring to the driveway as it exits onto Clara?
Correct.
And you would like it to be wider
Correct.
for the reason of,
Well, if there is concern, I drove that area today, and I've got a little Chevy Bolt, and it was a tight turn. And so I think for a couple of majority drivers, I think if that driveway was made wider, it would relieve some of those concerns.
I see, thank you. Yeah, and the applicant is correct that during the review process, our Public Works is part of the Development Review Committee. And so these driveway apron was reviewed, and it's designed based on city standards. So those city standards are based on data, turning radiuses, vehicles, and kind of combinate all of that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to echo my fellow commissioners' concern, just again, just from personal lived experience on minivan and a truck next to each other. It was very, very tight situation. And also I think it was because this particular one is at an angle. It's, there's a little bit of a dip there and some height difference as well in the elevation. So anyways, if Public Works is gonna say anything now, but later on.
Thank you, Commissioner. Our city engineer, Rudy Rosas, just wanted to clarify that the driveway apron looks like it's going to be a little bit wider than the existing conditions on there. So to alleviate some of those concerns.
Thank you. Commissioner Benninger, no additional questions?
No, just want to thank everyone for coming out and all the comments that we've received. It's great. Very much appreciate it.
Commissioner Escamilla.
I'm sorry, one last question. I'm sorry, I've asked this already. You stated that, and again, I don't know whether I'm out of range or not, because you're not aware of if you've been communicated with the neighborhood associations, whether there was meetings with them or not.
That's correct. So yeah, we hired someone to communicate with the local residents. The only person I personally met with was the daycare, and then our on-site tenants.
I don't know whether it's appropriate or not, and they asked the legals a question. I don't know if we can ask a question to those neighborhoods who are here, if they had an opportunity to talk, or if that's out of line.
I'm sorry, are you asking if you can ask the neighborhood association?
We have a number of neighborhoods represented out there.
Typically, if they had a public comment they wanted to make about this project, they would have made it during the public comment.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Commissioner Escamilla.
Yeah, no, I think we're starting to get to the point of figuring out what we're going to do here. Just looking to see, is there a willingness from the applicant to essentially accept the first two and maybe not the 24-hour or late night operations? I know you had said 3 to 5, and it kind of leaves some wiggle room where we still have to technically approve item 3 in there. So I'm just looking for some kind of comment. The 2 o'clock, I think you'd still be able to operate without that, or is it only till midnight? I'm actually blanking on this. I should know this. I'm sorry. To you, whether or not that's acceptable, but I think we need to clarify, without the after hours operation, is the current limit for a drive-through 12 or 2? 12. Okay, so we would still need it. But you said 3 o'clock is the line, 2 o'clock is.
Again, I mean, I don't think we're opposed to 2 o'clock. I just need to run it by our team if that's something you would like.
Okay, I'm just trying to parse out what the various requests are for the CUP right now. Oh, yeah.
Donald's choice seems again. Yes, we would accept that condition.
Commissioner Wu.
Since you're up there, I'd like to ask you some question. Your hamburger operation that Ray Kroc put together operates a little differently than, say, the other hamburger place down the block. In terms of turnaround time for servicing, your methodology is a little different, right?
It is.
Okay. Can you explain that? Because I think the concern was that you're going to have all this traffic, and I'm saying this from the perspective of not trying to be favorable to you, but
no, absolutely.
Because I don't eat hamburgers, and I try not to eat other food other than the stuff that I like, and I prefer that if this is a Chinese restaurant, but that's regardless. The reason I'm asking the question is that a lot of concern from the resident has been about the line. On your hamburger operation on Bristol was a concern to my neighborhood and the adjacent neighborhood association because of configuration with In-N-Out. Okay, but the operations were different and no one was complaining about McDonald's, but the focus was on In-N-Out. Similar with another operation of McDonald on Harbor, you know. So I'm trying to look at the consistency, looking at whether or not your operation is going to cause the fear that we are perceiving that you contribute homeless. The homeless people are not yours, right?
They are not.
Okay.
And I would like to say two statements about that. One of the most effective ways to combating that, I actually believe, is a busy, energetic, well-maintained, well-lighted strip center. You do not want to see vacancy and all of that. The two other points that on the drive-through operation that you brought up. Interestingly enough, at McDonald's, from the time you finish placing your order at the order point to the time that that food is presented to you, including the pay stop, the target for that is 1 minute and 20 seconds. Now, if you actually compare and contrast that to our competitors, there are some of those that exceed 6 minutes for that. There are some that actually approach 9 minutes. One of the things that we have made with regard to this drive-through that you'll notice, one of the ways that we are increasing drive-through efficiency is we actually have a pull forward window. And that's why you see the bypass lane. What that enables us to do is if there's an exceedingly large order or there's some type of issue with any order, we can actually pull a car forward to maintain the operational efficiency of our drive-through. Of the 1 minute, 20-second target, an interesting stat is 72% of customers are actually served during that time.
And like all business, you have certain peak period, you know, like
Absolutely.
lunchtime, dinner time and all that, right?
Yes.
But it seems to you and the developer answering the question, right? You're not defending or you're not arguing, but you seem to understand. And I appreciate the residents bringing out the things that you do because as a neighborhood person too, I've brought them up, you know, regarding different operation as well. But then, you know, when I start seeing the plan, the thing, I may or may not be modified by hearing and listening to your responses. So the other thing that I thought I heard the concern was you're willing to make some adjustment also to as going forward, make adjustment as you go along under the condition of the ongoing maintenance agreement, right?
Yes.
Right.
And
Which-
we actually enter into that agreement with our
Right.
landlord.
And so that answers that question. And then the lighting thing, the one on Bristol doesn't seem to bleed into the neighborhood.
No, we've actually designed our current facilities to have zero light leakage. There will be an 8-foot wall on this. We should maintain all of our light within our allotted area.
So
We're
the
very light leakage is a significant
just out of
issue.
curiosity, what kind of customer comes on after 12 o'clock? Because I'm in bed. Is it late workers getting off work? Like my son gets off work at night at the airport.
That's actually the predominance of our customers. During the nighttime hours, we actually have two. You have people leaving the second shift, but more importantly, if you look at our 4 a.m. to 5 a.m., it tends to be people getting coffee on their way to work. Especially with the fact that our lobby does close.
The commuter is what you're addressing during that
Yeah,
time.
I will tell you, I'm personally a big fan of McDonald's coffee. I'm not paid to say that. And in the morning, I actually find McDonald's coffee to be extremely consistent. And so that's my chosen caffeine fix in the morning.
So by having a operating business there, Stater Brother closes, I think, at 9:30 because I've tried going there late and finding it closed, or 10, right?
I think it's 10 p.m., isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah, it's 10 p.m.
Right. So it's between 10 and 12 and onward where there's no maintenance, but because there's an operating business there, it might be different, right?
Yes, that's my belief.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, could I say one more thing, just a couple of items I'd like to address? So
We
just
actually have a commissioner that actually has her last set of questions.
oh, I'm sorry.
It's okay, thank you. So I just wanted to clarify a question that was asked earlier. So I know you've now been asked like 2 or 3 times whether you met with the condominium community directly across the street and with the neighborhood association. So I know we've heard that there was a team hired that met with them. So I'm wondering if that team met with them just during the Sunshine Ordinance meeting, or were there also individual meetings with the neighborhood leaders?
So that team went out and garnered signatures in support of the project from the 1,000-foot radius. Approximately 70% of the people they contacted were in support. The other 30% of the people were not.
But
So
did that happen at the
that happened-
city
that
required
happened- no,
Sunshine
that-
Ordinance meetings?
that happened post Sunshine Ordinance. So that happened, I would say, in November and December of this year.
Okay, can you speak to whether there were like presentations given at specific neighborhood association meetings or HOA meetings?
No, I don't believe they did. No, they went door to door.
Okay, thank you. And then my other question is regarding community benefits. So I know in the presentation, the community benefit focus was on the economic impact and the jobs that would be created. I'm wondering if McDonald's or the property have any plans for additional community benefits to be provided
Well, yes, we're upgrading the whole shopping center. So,
outside of the shopping center.
oh, go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things we're extremely proud of with McDonald's is our contribution to the Ronald McDonald Homes, which I'm guessing you're aware of. They are homes that if a family has a sick child, they can actually stay at those homes at no cost to them. And there are a minimum, I believe, of 8 of those facilities in the Orange County area. And I believe that is a significant economic or a significant community impact. The other item that I would like to say is our individual franchisees are typically deeply rooted in the community, support sports teams, and usually partner with various organizations throughout the area. One of the things that has been brought up a couple of times that I actually find an interesting stat is 1 in 8 Americans actually began their career at McDonald's, which I think is a pretty amazing stat considering where we are as a country. In the 1990s, if you worked at McDonald's, you were 37% more likely to attend college. And then what this is just for as far as community impact goes.
So my question is more specific to local impact. So thank you for sharing what McDonald's is doing countywide and across the nation. But I'm wondering what other benefits beyond additional jobs would the city of Santa Ana and that specific area see because of McDonald's?
Well, I would believe families in Santa Ana could benefit from a Ronald McDonald House if they had a sick child. And I do believe our franchisees do put money back into the communities that they serve.
This location wouldn't open as a franchise location, correct?
No, but McDonald's overall also does the same.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question is, do you need the after hours operation?
No, we are willing to restrict the 24-hour
Okay,
request.
so you would be okay with being open until midnight?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions from the commission? Thank you.
Thank
The
you.
public hearing is now closed. We will bring it back to the commission for discussion. I know that there are 3 items within the item. So there's conditional use permit number 2024-01, conditional use permit 2024-02, and an amendment application number 2024-01 for the property. For voting purposes, do we do each CUP individually?
I'd like to request we do them individually.
Is there a second?
Is there a motion to approve CUP number 2024-01.
I thought we were gonna have a discussion on this first, or to discuss it rather than just going straight into a approval or denial.
We can have a discussion if it's needed.
Yeah.
Who would like to begin? Commissioner Benninger?
No, I don't think that's what her motion. She wanted to act on each one separately.
And I didn't make a motion. I just made it as a request, but I'm not calling a vote.
Make it as a motion, then we can vote on it.
No, I'm not making a motion. So we have the discretion to take each item individually or as one. I'm asking that we take each item individually, but I'm not calling a vote yet. So if you all would like to discuss.
Then we
I'm
will
not-
open.
I'm not arguing against it.
will open for
I
discussion.
just think that the motions are all related as
Correct.
one whole action. Because the zoning dovetails into the resolution for the CUP.
We can open it for discussion.
But I have no preference whether we separate it or not.
I have no problem. We separate them into 3 different votes, and that's fine with me.
Yeah, and I do see these as 3 different asks with 3 different criteria for each one. So I would prefer the one by one as we discuss it, but definitely willing to open up the floor and have our conversation now.
It's kind of related. If number 1 doesn't pass, the other 2 are dead.
We'll vote on each 3 individually, just to make it easier and just so that it's clear.
And Vice Chair, just procedurally to offer clarity and review the bylaws, I'd recommend a 5-minute recess to go over this with the commission, especially in light of the applicants putting on the table that they're okay with not having 24-hour operation
Amendment.
for certain implications of whether that's withdrawn verbally or acted on by the commission. If you want to have deliberations and then take that recess, that's fine, or we can take the recess now and come back.
Open for a recess, Commission?
Either way, I can still work through it. I know we're getting late here.
We can discuss and then we'll do the 5-minute recess. Thank you, Ellie. Commissioner Benninger, for the discussion, anything you'd like to add?
No, not this time.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, I think at least for me, the way that I'm looking at this, I was if you know me and kind of the policies that I've favored just historically, I'm actually pretty anti drive-throughs in general. I just don't think that they're good land uses that we should be encouraging in the city. Then that we probably should on the books have some sort of blanket ban on drive-throughs. But what we're facing today is we have certain sets of criteria that the city operates under and certain development standards and certain recommendations and requirements for a conditional use permit. So I'm just kind of in my head wrapping around what is it that we're here to approve? And I'm pretty much just focused in on, does it meet the criteria to approve for a conditional use permit? And that's strictly what I'm looking at, despite my own reservations again about allowing drive-throughs anywhere in the city. Quite honestly, I'm actually flatly against them, but I can't apply that here because that's not in our rules and regulations. So I just wanted to bring that up for folks, is that at least when I'm looking at this, I'm trying to figure out how to wrap my head around what we have to do for the conditional use permit that's before us.
Thank you for providing that clarity for the commission, Commissioner Escamilla. Commissioner Wu?
So you're saying sort of like the liquor store conundrum.
Yeah, it's where it's personal opinion versus is it meeting the requirements of what's before us? And that's why I think it's a little bit easier for us to do the one by one.
Correct. Commissioner Ramos?
No comments right now.
Okay, then, is there a motion to approve CUP number 2024-01 as is?
I move.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wu.
It's point of order. Did we need to take the recess before considering motions? Or was that the staff recommendation or?
Do we need a recess now or should we just vote? How do we feel?
Let's move on. Let's keep voting.
Vote and then take a 5-minute recess. So right now we currently have a motion by Commissioner Wu. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Secretary, please call for a roll call vote.
Commissioner Benninger?
Aye.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I just need a point of clarification.
Can we restate what the motion is?
Yeah, because if we're approving.
Motion to approve conditional use permit number 2024-01 as conditioned to allow drive-through window service.
So that would be point number 2.
Would
Yes.
it be 1, 2, and 3, or just 1, 2, and like?
So are we going out of order?
Yeah, sorry, because the way that it was, I was a
The-
little confused.
Yeah, the way that it was stated by Commissioner Wood sounded like we were going with the staff recommendation, which is not.
If I make a suggestion, the staff recommendation is up on the board for you.
Yes,
You would
this
want
one
to
is
take one by
following.
one, following with the number 1, 2, and then 3. So
Yeah, I referenced 2024-1
To
as
approve.
condition.
As
by staff.
conditioned
Yeah.
for the zone change, correct?
but the motion is, if I'm clear, is for the recommending the approval of the zone change
Right.
to the city council. Okay, that's
Correct.
the motion.
That's the motion.
No, the motion was made as adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit number 2024-01 as conditioned.
Okay, so my recommendation is that you take the action 1, 2, and 3 as outlined there. So you would need to withdraw your motion for the CUP. And if someone then can make a motion for the recommendation on the zone change first.
Okay, we will restart.
I thought the instruction from the chair was that we were going to take each one separately.
That's correct.
That-
So the
that's what-
zone change would be the first recommendation. So
Right.
that's the first action.
So Commissioner Wu, you motioned for part number 2. So staff is recommending that you withdraw that motion and then restate your motion for point number 1.
Didn't I do that?
No, you spoke on point number 2. So just withdraw that and then speak on point number 1.
I meant the zone change.
The zone change. Okay,
Right.
so we have a motion for the amendment to the application for the zone change. Do we have a second?
I'll second that one, yeah.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wu and a second by Commissioner Scamilla. Can Secretary please call for a roll call vote?
Okay, motion to recommend that the city council adopt an ordinance approving amendment application number 2024-01. Motion by Commissioner Wu, second by Commissioner Benninger. Commissioner Benninger?
Yes.
Commissioner Scamilla?
Yes.
Commissioner Leo? Commissioner Ramos?
No.
Commissioner Wu?
Yes.
Vice Chair Oliva?
Yes.
Chair Pham? Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Ramos dissenting.
And can I do a clarification that the second was from Commissioner Scamilla? Thank you. Now we will move on for a motion to adopt the resolution approving CUP number 2024-01 as conditioned. This is for the drive-through window. Do
Sure,
I have a motion?
Well, Chair, I'm just wondering if we might be able to open up just a quick discussion on this number 2 item.
Of course.
So for me, and again, this is why I will preface my comment with the conditions before us. I think that the approval for item 1 was pretty straightforward. It seems to be in line. It's general commercial. C5 is an appropriate zoning. That makes a lot of sense to me, the way that was laid out. The conditional use permit does require that we basically make a finding that everything is in line with the general plan and that there are no policies that are in conflict. And I am still at this moment unsure as to whether or not this approval is in fact in conflict with our historic preservation element and the kind of items within that historic preservation element. I'm not actually really sure one way or the other, but this is something where I personally would like more time to evaluate the historic nature of the site. But that's where I'm at right now, but I don't know if that's the majority feeling. And I know that we also have 2 absent members that I would love additional input from, and I think would be important to have. I don't think they're representative of this area, but still would respect their opinions on the matter as well as just allowing more time to evaluate the historic concerns at the site. That's where I'm at, but just want to bring that
Yeah,
up.
and I would also like to echo Commissioner Scamilla, as noted in my comment. I would also like us to explore the historic preservation. And yeah, just thinking about our general plan, making sure that this is not in conflict with any other policies and any other elements. So if Commissioner Scamilla were to motion for a continuation on this part of it, I would second that.
Madam Vice Chair, if I may, as a staff member from staff that for the last couple of years led the historic preservation team here, now along with another staff member, I can address the historic question if the commission chooses to hear me out today. But I'll leave it up to you entirely.
Please.
I thought
clarify.
item number 2 is just to allow a conditional use permit to allow a drive-through window.
Right, but then in order to do that, we would be approving a conditional use permit, and the conditional use permit requires us to then evaluate whether or not any of the proposed developments or the project is in conflict with any of our policies. And the only one I can think of really, because we have a lot of different concerns, but the one that I felt was the most valid and the strongest case was around our consideration of historic
But we're
preservation.
kind of mixing apples and oranges.
No, it's just that the policies that we have to evaluate are in our general plan, and the subsection related to historic preservation.
But we don't have a policy like Westminster trying to be like Westminster, England.
If I may make a suggestion, it does not make sense as the applicant has submitted an application for all the 3 actions to take action on one and then not to take action on the other. At this point, it appears there's a series of questions that some of the commission may want to have answered, and if staff is able to answer tonight, we will. If you want to pose your question, we can try to accommodate that. If we need additional time, then I think we'll need to consider other options. But do you have any questions that you want to articulate to us today, as we did, as part of this project, completed a very thorough analysis, both at the CEQA level on the cultural and historical resources of the site. There was also an analysis of the general plan consistency with general plan policy as it relates to land use, cultural, the various policies of the general plan. So if there's anything specific that you want to address, please outline it now so that we can help address it and answer any questions.
If I may, if you could give us a little historical background on this project or on this
Sure.
land?
Of course. So Commissioner Escamilla might know this better than the other commissioners, but in order to evaluate whether a property has cultural or historic significance, there's a set of standards that the property has to be evaluated by. And so in preparation of the environmental document, our consultant did contract with a South Environmental, it's the name of the company. And the professionals who put together the study, the environmental historic assessment for this, are qualified members to do so. They have to meet certain standards by the Secretary of Interior, and they do. In their thorough analysis of the property, they reviewed occupancy history, and they reviewed integrity of the existing structure. And there is information that's based on period of significance, and it's pretty lengthy. So if the commission had time to review Appendix K, I believe it was, which is the thorough analysis for the properties, they would have seen that the conclusion was that these properties hold no historic significance at the state level or the local level. Now, what was responded to in the memo was a public comment that seemed to defer to that opinion. And so the memo kind of clarified the intention of the study and did kind of outline the national standards that were used to evaluate both properties. And while there is some significance to the Newcomb family and that property, it didn't rise to the level of listing for state or local. It just didn't meet any of those criteria. The consultant did note that, 60 years of owning a business in downtown is important, but it wasn't something that, was a significant contribution to the city of Santa Ana to rise to the level of worthy of designation on our register, and certainly not to the state, right? The family was kind of early to Santa Ana, but they weren't the first family to settle in the area. So there's that part, right? There's not that significance that normally would have been attributed to people who've lived there. And then moreover, they made mention of the homestead being the most important part of the Newcomb family. So now what you see is subdivided land that used to be much more significant. And there is no original homestead home because it was demolished in the 60s. That was built in the 20s. What you see now is homes that were built in the 50s and the 60s. that because of the setting and the condition of the homes, they have no historic value or integrity. So based on the professional opinion of the consultant, they're not worth listing, unfortunately, in the local register, and certainly not the state. So there's no significance and therefore no impacts to CEQA.
Planner Gomez, do you have an application at this time from the applicant for historic designation of the site or anyone?
No.
Thank you for the clarification, Pedro.
So anyway, the study was because of a response to a public comment. And so staff was doing due diligence to respond to that in preparation for this, to provide the information to the commission in answering to.
The response that was provided supplemental today was specifically on the issue of what was raised on the historic aspect of the property by residents. But as a part of the city's review process for any project, as part of the CEQA analysis, we do review the historical aspect of a site as a matter of standard protocol.
And I could appreciate Commissioner Manny for asking the question. My fear was inference that we may infer on future development that if we don't like something that is historic on affordable housing, that I could raise something about the way the feature is that I don't like it to kill the project. That's was my fear, but since staff Pedro explained it a little further, you know, in context, I understand that a little better. So that's where I was coming from, Manny. That I didn't want us to apply it to other things because we've done it here, you know, kind of thing.
Okay. Any additional comment on this, or should we move to a motion?
No, I guess I would just, the comments, and I appreciate Pedro's input and professional recommendation on this. But I do think that at the end of the day, it's like up to every city and, commissioners and electeds to decide, and the community, quite honestly, at the end of the day, to decide what is of value to those members of the community. And I would say that, yeah, having an open business in the city of Santa Ana for 60 years is a notable contribution worthy of commemoration. I think that's a reasonable debate to have as to whether or not it rises to that requirement. And we have had instances in which great development projects overlooked certain historic considerations. And I'm just worried that we're rushing a little bit on the demolition of the two structures. And I guess I would like more time to evaluate. So if we aren't really going to debate the historic character of it here on the dais, I would like a little bit more time to evaluate my concern, and we'll maybe open to other conversations and considerations, but that's where I'm at right now.
Believe me, if it rose to the occasion of meeting those standards, I'll be with you. I don't think it does. It's just housing.
I would also like to pose to the commission just the way that McDonald's functions. I don't think I've ever seen a McDonald's without a drive-through, and that's what we're looking at. So that's what I wanted to share. And if we would like to make a motion too.
If I could clarify as well, so the supporting documents for this project, the environmental document made a determination that there is no cultural impacts. So if I can just clarify, is Commissioner Escamilla suggesting that there is cultural impacts by demolishing this property after the review was done?
I'm saying that the interpretation of our consultants is not, how do I say this, immutable and divinely inspired. I do think that there's a debate professionally as to whether or not local criteria will accept a building as historically significant for a notable family or persons. And yes, it's definitely not at the time period of the original homestead, which is probably would be the most significant level of contribution. I think if it was the original homestead, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We would note it as a historic structure. But there is a conversation to have as to whether or not the family compound of a founding and early pioneer family does rise to the criteria that we have internally for the city of Santa Ana to be of a notable family or person or contribution to the city. And I do think that that's the debate, the point of debate. And right now, I honestly would not be able to settle it either way, but I do think we need more time for consideration. And in light of the lack of having two commissioners here, would be for me, it's reasonable to extend the conversation till the other members of the commission are here.
Sure,
Yeah,
if I
but the
may.
family sold it.
If I may, so there is studies, obviously they go into the setting, right? There's no significance to the setting anymore because it's largely developed by commercial, right? So it sounds like the area in general would have been of significance, not necessarily as in these homes. So I mean, would the commission be open to some sort of commemoration plaque or something that would kind of say, hey, listen, this was the site of the Newcomb family. That was part of a larger homestead. Unfortunately, these homes no longer have any sort of integrity, but the site itself, is important to the city of Santa Ana because of this association. So that's something that the commission could consider. And it's not a new thing that the commission has considered before. Our Historic Resources Commission has considered it. This body, actually, the zoning administrator has considered it for subdivision of Wrong Way, Corrigan, if I'm saying that right. So it's not something new. So that's certainly something that you could consider tonight.
To case planner Gomez's point, there is precedence for that with Wrong Way Corrigan's residence at 2828 North Flower Street. One of the conditions of approval for that tentative parcel map was installation of a bronze plaque or other commemorative plaque in the sidewalk in front of those new homes that would be built when the project is effectuated to commemorate that sort of aspect of the city's cultural history. That's always an option on the menu for the commission this evening.
Would we like to do an amendment to the CUP number 2024-01? Approve it with the amendment that there is a bronze plaque?
So I think you had, Chair. So my preference right now would just be more time to evaluate the consideration, because again, like I said, when I'm evaluating the conditional use permit requirements, it's don't be in conflict with any of the general plan policies, and obviously you have to balance out a lot of different ones. And again, from all the information that we were presented today, the only thing that is still of a question in my mind is related to the historic, quality criteria and whether or not this site meets that. And I still feel unsure, so I would just like more time to evaluate. And so for me, my preference would be a continuation to the next meeting, but that's my preference. I'm not making the motion to do so. I'm simply expressing that that's what my preference would be at this point.
Certainly, and it would be helpful for staff if maybe, let me ask the question this way. Are you asking more time to digest information that's already here, that's been presented to you? Or are there additional information that you believe that you would need in order to help you do that?
Yeah, so for me, it would be a little bit of time to digest and a combination of additional research, because again, the period of significance that we're looking at was fairly narrow and really only limited to the main family, but it might be more information out there potentially. I don't know, but again, I haven't evaluated the historic question that's before me, at least in my mind. And obviously, to the consultants, it didn't occur to them, and the evaluation was done, and to staff, same. But I'm telling you right here, right now, as a representative of the Historic Commission, I would not be doing my job if I wasn't bringing up considerations for historic preservation when the opportunities present themselves.
I like to call it question.
What was that, Commissioner Whip?
Made a motion and seconded. We made a motion and seconded.
I don't think there has been a motion made on point 2.
No, there has
We
been.
don't have it?
No, not yet.
Question, I can ask the question this of staff. Do we hurt anything by delaying, as what the commissioner's asking, to the next meeting, which is 2 weeks?
I think that's a question for the applicant, if they have any issues with the deadline or continuance, but from what we're hearing, the commissioner is asking for additional time to consider the information that's already been presented to you. There's no new questions that's being asked here tonight that we haven't been able to address.
I do see the possible effect of the 2 missing members, that they could have an opinion also on this. I'm ready to vote tonight, just to let you know, but I think that I think it's being raised a good point. Could they ask the applicant what would happen if we delay this 2 weeks?
At this point, you would have to reopen the public hearing for that. Is the desire.
Number
Thank
3.
you.
You guys probably don't.
I
wouldn't
think
need
we
my
should
vote.
vote on item number 2 before we move forward, but we will open the public hearing so that the applicant can answer the question Commissioner Benninger just shared.
So in our experience, in 2 weeks, there's not much that I don't think we can resolve in 2 weeks. And this project has now been going on for almost 2 years. So we would greatly appreciate moving forward if that's a possibility.
Thank you. We'll close the public comments. We'll close the public hearing.
Chair, if I may,
Yes.
pursuant to your bylaws, in order to reopen the public hearing, you need to have a vote.
Can we do a retroactive vote? A roll call vote for opening and closing public hearing.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla, Commissioner Leo, Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
We're voting to reopen the hearing.
It's a retroactive vote.
What?
Retroactive vote
For what?
to open and close public hearing.
A retroactive? Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Aye.
Chair Pham. Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Leo and Chair Pham absent.
Thank you. We're in good standing. And now we'll close the public hearing. Thank you. Do we have a motion so I'll bring it back to discussion. So are we willing to continue the review or do we want to take a vote?
I want to take a vote because all the document was in the staff documentation put forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Wu.
And we got public hearing comment.
We do need a motion on the floor in order to continue, right?
Correct.
So I'd like to move for the adoption of conditional use permit 2024-1 condition to allow a drive-through window service.
I have a motion from Commissioner Wu. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Benninger. Secretary, please call for a roll call vote.
Motion to adopt the resolution approving conditional use permit number 2024-01 as conditioned. Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla,
No.
Commissioner Leo, Commissioner Ramos,
No.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Yes.
Chair Pham.
A point of clarification for staff. So saying that the motion did not pass, and for the applicant to be able to move forward in the process, for it to come back, would we now need a motion to continue?
Since here, so that motion did pass.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Majority, I'm sorry, motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Escamilla and Commissioner Ramos dissenting.
And that was because I have trouble hearing down here and someone talks really fast. The reason is that not the full commission is here today, right? And-
Yeah, I was just hoping that we would extend, and I understand the applicants. I do hate to extend the entitlement process any more than we have to, but I thought that there were relevant questions in my mind around the historic considerations and also to have the additional 2 commissioners. I just thought it lined up, but I'm totally okay. We can move on to question number 3, which I still have input on if we can, if we want to move to that.
And I thought staff answered it, so I couldn't understand the postponement of that. Other than the fact that the other 2 commission needed to vote.
You have voted on number 2 already. It's clear that it's passed. As a point of order for number 3, the applicant has expressed a willingness to essentially withdraw the application since they are going to be in compliance with the hours of operations from stopping at 12 a.m. and starting at 5 a.m. So with that, I would at least I think from a process and procedure standpoint is to have the applicant come back up and express their desire to withdraw that application so that we have it as part of the record. And that way, the application for the zoning and the application for the drive-through can move forward to the city council. So if you would take a vote to open up the public hearing, allows the applicant to come forward, withdraw the application for the drive-through, and then we'll accept that as part of the record.
We will reopen the public hearing so that the applicant can come forward.
We need a motion and a second and a vote.
Oh,
We-
that's
the
what
vote,
we
yeah.
are
I
doing
motion
now,
to
just prefacing what we're
reopen.
doing. I'm prefacing what we're
Correct.
doing, yes. So I'll open up to a vote to the commission if we are ready to reopen public hearing.
Could
Aye.
staff restate what we're doing again? Because I have trouble hearing down here again.
The applicant, through their answering a question, has expressed that they're willing to comply with the city's existing regulations on stopping operations at 12 a.m. and then starting up again at 5 a.m. Therefore, no longer necessary for the after hours, 24 hours drive-through, 24-hour application. Opening up the public hearing would allow them to withdraw the application verbally so that the commission, they can move forward with the application tonight for the two remaining applications for the CUP for the drive-through and the zone change for the site.
Should they change their mind later on, they have to get another CPUC?
They can come and reapply, correct?
Oh, they could open till 3.
They would have to come and reapply for a after-hour operation CUP if that's their desire at the
So
summer.
after hours, ending after 12.
Correct.
Okay.
If we could do a roll call vote to reopen the public hearing.
I'm sorry, who motioned?
I motioned.
And it was second by?
I'll second.
Okay,
Thank
so
you,
motion to
Commissioner.
reopen public hearing by Carl Benninger, Commissioner, Commissioner Benninger, and second by Commissioner Escamilla.
Correct.
Commissioner Benninger,
Aye.
Commissioner Escamilla,
Aye.
Commissioner Leo, Commissioner Ramos,
Aye.
Commissioner Wu,
Aye.
Vice Chair Oliva,
Aye.
Chair Pham. Motion approved by majority vote with Commissioner Leo and Chair Pham absent.
If the applicant can come forward, thank you.
Commissioners, as the representative for SRP Stater Bros LLC, we request to pull the conditional use permit 2024-02, which would be the CUP allowing after hours use.
The terminology for this would be to withdraw the application.
Withdraw the application.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
applicant. And now we close the public hearing. Do we call for a vote for the closing the public hearing? No. Perfect. We're on board. Okay, so now.
So
that con-
your actions on this item has been completed.
Okay, perfect. So now this concludes the business calendar. Moving on to closing comments, but we will take a short 5-minute recess and then we'll be back. Or should we just end it?
Yeah.
Let's power through,
Yeah,
y'all.
9
Here we
o'clock
go.
hard stop.
Does the commission have any comments or questions for staff? Commissioner Benninger,
This is closing comments.
closing comments.
Again, I thank everyone for their input tonight and very much appreciate the input and have a good night.
Commissioner Escamilla?
Yeah, thank you to the residents that showed up and expressed your concerns and raised some issues. But also, yeah, thanking staff for oh my gosh, what's the term? I'm always blanking out up here. Willing to listen to your commissioners and our various concerns and doing it in a way that makes us feel heard, but also sternly within the realms of what's legally required. So I appreciate that. The two items that I did want to bring up was, and this might have been for one of our other commissioners, Commissioner Ramos might be able to say this, or I believe we are starting to have the conversations around the redevelopment of the Civic Center. I know that it sent an email a ways back. There wasn't necessarily a contract, but my understanding is that there are now ongoing conversations around the city's envisioning of the Civic Center area. So just want to see whether or not that's going to be presented over to Planning Commission and whether or not each one of us in the same way that we're being brought in to the zoning code question, will be also brought in, to those conversations. So that's, yeah, it's item 1. Do you want to?
Thank you. Generally, this is a time for the commission to
Yeah,
make comments. We're happy to provide updates, but just broadly speaking, efforts have very initially begun to just look at what the possibilities are for the Civic Center area. If there are items that touch on areas of action by the commissions, whether it's Planning Commission or Historic Resources Commission, it will of course be brought forward for attention at that point.
Okay. Yeah, just because very early on, the worry still is any demolition or potential demolition of the Santa Ana City Hall and the accompanying Sergio Gadis mural. It still is a concern of mine. So anytime I can voice that, I will do so. And then just number 2, just procedurally, I know that we usually kind of go towards the tail end when we have to make a decision about an entitlement and something that requires our review here. But I'm wondering if we're tracking any sort of, or have any system in place currently to track denials or, things that people are asking for. Because right now, when we were being asked to kind of comment on the zoning code update, I'm also not sure, and obviously because not frontline counter planner anymore here, what is or what are being stumbling blocks for different people. So I know that kind of internally, we all have like a mental note as far as what people ask for and then what we can't give them or what people are asking for, and they need to kind of make some adjustments. But I'm wondering if we're tracking that or figuring out, what is it that people are asking for that our code doesn't necessarily allow for.
Great question. And really to help balance that perspective, not only are we interviewing commissioners, but we also are interviewing actual applicants, architects, and developers. So that will help to balance that perspective.
Thank you. And also, I would say also the very non-professional person, and those are probably a little bit harder, but when we have random people that are asking to do something and then, they know nothing about zoning codes and, probably do need a little assistance, still trying to figure out what it is that they want to do, but would also be of interest. And that's all I have.
I spent the last week at my alma mater, Colorado College, which was established in 1874. And being on the Building and Grounds Committee, you can imagine the issues we deal with in terms of our modern uses versus the buildings that were built with stone back in 1800s. I bring that up only because I've been made aware of the needs in the City Hall building and staff access to modern technology and all that. But I would like to still preserve the plaque out there for the All-American City, because that was hard fought by the community. And the application was one where we really went out and tried to include the underserved 13 neighborhoods that represented the Sano neighborhoods. And that was a hard process that was supported by the businessmen on the committee and sponsors. And I thought that plaque is very important. Also, the Japanese garden, I like to make sure that no damage come to it as we modernize and do our civic center changes. The third thing is that when I first came to the city some 40-some years ago, one of our biggest fight was to make sure that the city civic center area does not encroach on and expand on, our neighborhoods surrounding the area. We weren't able to preserve a lot, but there still is, houses nearby. So, I just like to point that out in terms of like being consistent with our preservation goal to balance our civic center need, but also not do what redevelopment did in the past, which was to remove whole neighborhoods.
Thank you. Commissioner Ramos.
Just thank you to staff. I know some other staff left, but thank you them for their patience as well and very kind answers. And also thank you, Vice Chair, for chairing the meeting again. I think you're doing very good.
Trying. Thank you. I just want to thank staff, it's tricky navigating some of these conversations, so thank you for the guidance. I appreciate it. A few fumbles, nothing wrong with that. But no comments or questions. Does staff have any closing comments?
I have none. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any closing comments from the commissioners? The next meeting will be held March 11th, 2024 at 5:30 in the council chambers. So this meeting is adjourned.